minutes have been handed out to you, so if you all could hand those back in to the clerk, you can finish looking at those. Item B3 is the police department's vehicle surplus request. This is for a Jeep Grand Cherokee that is no longer needed, and the proceeds of the sale would be placed in the asset forfeiture account at the police department. Item B9 is budget amendment number 20. This is for staff to enter into a master services agreement for the acquisition of right-of-ways associated with the Morgan's Branch Pump Station and Force Main project. 4 of the 5 acquisition firms submitted a scope and fee for this work, with Telex being the lowest amount in the amount of $144,250. It does have negotiation services for 28 parcels. It includes appraisal services for 10 parcels, as well as attorney services for 5 parcels. And if those items are not needed throughout the process, of course, we won't pay the full amount. So this is for us to enter into a contract and then a budget amendment number 20 for that work. Item B5 is consideration of a facade enhancement grant for 3 North Main Street. This is for $1,150, and funding for the facade enhancement grant is included in the current budget for an awning replacement at that address. Item B6 is the recommendation of a consultant for the Waterfront Village Center area specific master plan. The amount of money associated with fiscal impact summary is $110,000. The Belmont's comprehensive land use plan was adopted in September of 2025, and that plan recommended the development of a master plan for the area. An RFP was released in April. 13 responses were received. Staff worked, scored the submissions, had interviews, and had the various top 3 consultants, and Bolton Mink in partnership with Innovate P3, Rose and Associates, and Lagniappe.
Lagniappe.
There you go.
I think it's in there. It's a Creole word. It means a little something more.
Oh, I knew, Jim, that you were going to let us know about that. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for that, Jim.
So staff recommends council approve the selection of Bolton Mink to complete the Waterfront Village Center area-specific master plan. Item B7 is the consideration of approval of the Dirty Wolf Racing's use of Rocky Branch Park for their 2026 Black Copperhead Sting 50K. This event will take place on August 15th, 2026 from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Item B8 is the consideration and approval of Belmont Run Club's use of Rocky Branch Park during their 2026 To the Good Times Trail Run event. That's going to take place on October the 3rd, 2026 from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. And item B9 is the Catawba River Public Water Intake Excavation Capital Project approval. Of course, you all know that our water intake in the middle of the Catawba River has sediment on top of it from Hurricane Helene. Staff put together a bid, sent out the bids. They didn't get any bids the first time. They revised the bids and re-advertised this project on May 22nd, 2026. The apparent low bidder for this project is the rowboat company, but they were not responsive in their bid documents that they had to provide, and so therefore the most responsible bidder in this project is HG Reynolds Company Incorporated, with a base bid amount of $1,215,600, with staff including a 15% owner's contingency for the total bid amount of $1,397,940. We did receive a $10 million SRF grant for this project, and so you can see that the resolution I handed out, there's already a capital project ordinance included, given that it's going to span fiscal years. But the resolution of tentative award for the public water intake project allows this project to be considered with a $10 million grant. The full $10 million grant is for design and hopefully construction to relocate the intake where it's currently located in the Catawba River. So it's not behind an island out there, and that sediment won't get trapped on our intake currently.
Is that SRF a loan or a grant?
I think it's a loan. It says SRF loan, so
But- It also says 0%,
yeah, I think you get the
100% principal forgiveness and 0%
Yes.
interest. So
Otherwise
I'm
known as a
not sure
grant.
they're expecting to be paid back.
Yeah.
they call it we call it SRF loan. That's the way the state categorizes the state revolving fund loan.
And just a quick question on this one. Have we had any communications with Duke Energy and/or any of those representatives? The only reason why I bring that up, I understand this is our water intake for our infrastructure, but if I recall, you know, one of the responsibilities of the energy company is to maintain the lake, right? Particularly its water levels and tributaries. I just would be curious if we have even reached out to Duke to see if they would help us with any of this project.
We didn't ask them about. Of course, we reached out to Duke Energy when we knew it was covered. They have ownership of the lake bed and manage that process, and so we had to get permission from Duke Energy to put this project out to bid and to have a dewatering site. Once they remove the sediment, they'll bring it ashore, have to dewater it, just really across the street right there. So yes, we've been in contact with them. Plus, we contacted them to ask them about, do we have any bidders that they could recommend to us? When we knew that the lake level was getting close to where we've got what we call the sluice gate, which is a valve that's opened up on the line. So you've got the line that goes out. The intake is a pipe that goes out towards the channel, and you know the intake portion of it is covered with silt, so we're drawing water from a different location. So we know the elevation of that sluice gate, and we reached out to Duke Energy when the water levels got low so that they could maintain the dams along the Catawba River basin so that it wouldn't allow the lake level to get below that point. So we've been in communication with them all along, but we've never said, hey, could you pay for our project that I'm aware of.
I think it might be worth reaching out to Martha just to see, right? Martha Wagner, I believe, our representative,
She is.
to see if there's any opportunity. Because if you think about it, I mean, a lot of these municipalities pull, right, from the Catawba tributaries all the way up towards the mountain, down south, down through Lake Wiley. I don't believe it would probably be uncommon that one of those municipalities reached out to Duke Energy for some type of help on this, right?
Mm.
Because if you look at the state tasks the energy company to maintain this, one for recreational purposes. I don't know what it says about for our purposes as a municipality.
Yeah.
So I would just be interested. I mean, I understand we get this $10 million SRF, 0% loan or 0% interest, but could that be utilized for another project, right? Is there something we could leverage with Duke Energy to help us with this particular project? I think it's worth asking. If we don't
agree.
ask, we won't know.
Yeah.
All right, so
Exactly.
you want
I agree.
to move it to the regular agenda? I mean, I think that,
I don't know, Miles. What
if
would
we're not
you-
going to approve it, we'll have to move it to regular agenda, off consent.
Yeah,
Well,
Yeah.
think we should.
If,
Okay.
maybe let's discuss it. I understand that this is probably pressing, but maybe my recommendation would be to move it
Yeah,
off
let's
the
do
Okay.
regular
All right,
regular
well,
agenda.
we will move agenda item B9, will become new agenda item C6. Y'all good with that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Miles about anything on the consent agenda?
I had a couple.
Okay.
With respect to the ordinances related to Rocky Branch Park, the park will remain, is the park going to remain open to the public during those events? You know, as I understood it, the folks are just going to use Rocky Branch Park, but I'm assuming the park will be open to the public.
let me
Well-
ask staff if Cassidy is in the audience. Cassidy, is the park going to remain open during these trail events? She said to her knowledge, but she needs to coordinate with her
Okay.
coordinator.
All right, well, I'd just be curious, just because it seems to me similar to like Stowe Park, where we
Yeah, you
don't
can't.
rent out
Yeah.
Stowe Park, and to the extent that people, the public can't go there, I'd have sort of similar thoughts about that.
Do we want to, do you want to move it so that we can have discussion on it and possibly add, because I don't know that that's broken out in the agreement.
Is there, I don't know if it needs to be moved. I'm fine with Cass. Cass, I'm fine
Okay.
with Cass just confirming.
Okay, all right, very good.
And then I did have some questions about Budget Amendment 20 with respect to the services for the appraisals and everything. Because I was a bit trying to understand how it all worked, and you mentioned that if we didn't need appraisal or attorney services as contemplated in the, I mean, what would you call it, a quote?
Yeah, this proposal. Yeah.
Then, you know, obviously, we wouldn't expend that money, but what happens if we need appraisal or attorney services for more than the anticipated number of properties?
Yes, if we need more than that 144,250, we'll have to come back to you all to ask for
Okay.
an additional budget amendment for that.
And I'm assuming it's the same thing then, if, I think it estimates that $3,500 for negotiation services for each of the 28 parcels.
Correct.
You know, if some of them come to more than that, you'd have to come to us for a budget amendment in that regard as well. Is that correct?
Right, yep. If we have anything that goes above the initial amount,
Okay.
We'll
And
have
of
to bring it
course, what happens if a property owner just refuses to sell? Where does that leave the project?
well, we'd have to bring that back to you all to determine whether you want to, you know, proceed with like eminent domain purposes. If we're trying to put a new sewer line up South Point Road and we have, you know, one property owner that doesn't agree,
Yeah.
we have to bring it back to you all.
What if it's in that said property's in the county? Would we be able to exercise eminent domain over it?
Yes.
All right. Okay, well, there you go. Very good. And we're hoping that this work will be covered by the state appropriation, but we're not sure at this point.
Right, yes, we hope it will. We wanted to go ahead and get this in front of you all, but, you know, when we go through the process, if we feel like we can get reimbursement from the state, once we have further conversation with them, we'll bring that information to you and ask for that paperwork to be approved
Okay,
at that time.
sounds good. That's all I had.
Thank you.
To Jim's point, though, on this, I mean, out of the 28 various different property owners we're going to have to, or you guys are going to have to talk through, it might be well to assume that at least one is going to say no. So it might be helpful just to start drawing up, if we already have, kind of what the area of impact is, because I don't think it's within the right-of-way, right next to the road, I would anticipate, right?
Right.
It's not like we're taking, because I want us to be careful when we use the word eminent domain, because that's what it would be effectively, but at the same time, we're not taking this whole parcel, right? I mean, it's just a portion of it.
Just
is
the
how I would
portion that we
anticipate.
need, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so our engineer is not this same firm that's going to do that right-of-way acquisitions. We've got an engineering firm that has already drawn the project up, and it shows the identified parcels. Therefore, that's how we know how many that we need right-of-way from, or easements from. And so that's what we gave to these companies that provided the proposal to us. And so they kind of know the length, the width, the dimensions of all the easements in there. And so that's kind of how they drafted their proposal.
And I'm assuming some of these would be like temporary construction easements as opposed to like permanent easements, is
Right.
that correct?
It just might be helpful with a visual, just to show, right?
You want me to provide that information you want at some point in the future? I'm sure when we go through this process, we'll be bringing these back to you anyway.
Mine's more of a suggestion that that's something that we may just want to make sure we make clear if it does come to that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are we actually taking anybody's property, or is it just, it's just right away, right? Like to run a pipe in the ground?
Well, it's right away, but the specifics of this project, I don't know. So if you want more information, I'd have to get like our engineering firm to come in to say, all right, how much of this property is needed? Is it needed for construction easements? Is it needed for permanent easements? Because it's not the same throughout. The pipe, even a portion of the pipe kind of goes into like NCDOT's road bed. And so you've got property owners, you got NCDOT because it goes up South Point Road, and it's not like a straight line, so it'll vary as it moves, through the project. So, but this company here, we know that, staff couldn't take this on. You need a professional company that comes in and reaches out to the 26 property owners, goes through the motions to acquire right-of-ways, and also does the attorney work for us at the end of it. But the specifics of like how much, where, how, what they consist of, whether it's construction or permanent, I don't have the information. We could make a presentation at some point in the future, but right now I don't know.
I think that would be prudent just to get our head space in the right area as this comes to us, because
Yeah.
I think it would be foolish to anticipate that everyone.
Are
Yeah,
we
it's a
doing
pretty
this with the
major project.
anticipation of widening South Point at some point?
Not that stretch.
No.
No, it's not.
Because that
even-
just goes up to Henry's Chapel.
Yeah.
So right now,
I'm talking about like future.
in the
state.
future,
So I assume this is essentially setting the budget for the project, or the funding for the project.
True.
But as the project comes up, there are questions that are going to be presented to council. Is that right, Miles?
Yes, we
I
can
mean,
make
they
a
would be,
presentation.
they would be presented, so any further need to share information, I think will come up in
Oh,
some future
no,
meeting.
I'm good with this. I just
Okay,
think
Yeah.
let's
yeah,
go
that's
ahead
what I
and
was
get
asking.
ourselves
So are we
prepared,
good with,
though, right?
with it staying on the consent agenda as
Yes,
it
I
is?
think
Oh, yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, any other questions for Miles on anything on the consent agenda as presented? All right, well, if there are no other questions, we'll conclude our work session, and I will call to order the Belmont City Council regular meeting of June 1st, 2026. And if everyone would please stand with me, I believe we have Pastor Jeff Taylor for our invocation, and then we will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father in heaven, we are grateful for your many blessings, thankful for your faithfulness, and humbled by your grace. Your word tells us to pray for our leaders. So on behalf of the Belmont City Council, I ask for your grace to lead them, your wisdom to guide them, and your mercy to protect them. Thank you for each member who serves our city, and may their decisions be beneficial for all Belmont residents. May we continue to trust you and to do our part in making our communities happy, healthy, and safe places to live and raise our families. We thank you for all that you have done for us, and it's in your holy name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor. All right, if everyone would join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you may be seated. Thank you. All right, so that will take us to recognitions and acknowledgments, and I don't believe we have any tonight. So that will move us on to setting the agenda, and we have an amendment. We will be moving consent item B9 to regular agenda item C6. So I will entertain a motion to set the amended agenda.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Alex,
Second.
second by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that will set our amended agenda. So I'll move us on to the approval of the consent agenda. So I will entertain a motion to approve the amended consent agenda. Jason,
Second.
seconded by Alex. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the amended consent agenda is approved. And that moves us right along to regular agenda item B1, public comment.
C1.
C1, sorry. C1, public comment. Well, it looks like we have a couple people here. Mr. Chris Owens. All right, if you want to come on up here, and as you're walking up, I'll remind you, please feel free to get close to the microphone. It does not pick up well, and we want to make sure everyone at home can hear you. All speakers have up to 3 minutes on any topic. Speakers must sign up with their name and address, must be respectful to City Council staff and public. It's a time for speakers to bring matters to the mayor and City Council's attention. There's no discussion or debate about items. If warranted, mayor or the City Council can ask city staff to follow up with speakers on his or her concerns. And this is separate from various other public hearing items, which we do not have tonight. So, Mr. Owens, thank you for coming. And the little light right there will kind of tell you as you work your way through your 3 minutes. So, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Again, my name is Chris Owens, and I am the executive director of a nonprofit educational institute based here in Belmont. But I'm also really privileged this evening to represent Troop 56 as the Scoutmaster there. We are based out of First United Methodist on South Point Road. And we're here this evening to participate in the government of the local community. We currently have around 25 active scouts in our troop and over 50 Cub Scouts that are feeding into the program there at First Methodist. This is our 70th anniversary. We were founded in 1956, and so for 7 decades we have developed and been stewards of a tradition of producing leaders and outstanding citizens through the scouting program. This year is a particularly noteworthy occasion in our 70th year. Just this past week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, we graduated 5 Eagle Scouts from South Point High School, and all 5 of them earned their Eagle Scout in this last calendar year.
Excellent.
So we're very excited and thrilled to share that with you. That brings our total number of Eagle Scouts that Troop 56 has produced here in Belmont to 143.
Wow.
In a particular way, I want to thank this body and the various affiliated organizations in the local government for approval and support of recent Eagle Scout projects over at Rocky Branch Park. We have one currently in progress overlooking Stuart Kramer High School up on the top of the hill there. And we have one that we understand has taken a lot of interest from the mountain bikers that was just completed earlier this spring as well, with some very, very neat mountain bike features. Intrinsic to the nature of scouting is the word outing. And so in a particular way, I want to thank you all for your own stewardship and to consider and encourage you towards creating, preserving green space here in our local community, places for us to go scouting around, and conservation and public access of those same spaces. And we want to be partners with you in that. We have 11 scouts here this evening, all future Eagle Scouts, we hope, and they will have at some point to do an Eagle Scout service project as well. This evening we're here in part working on the Communications Merit Badge, an Eagle Required Merit Badge, which requires them to pay attention to a local council meeting and to listen in particular to debate on particular issues and to document the various considerations and write a report on that. So in that, I hope you'll debate well and strongly this evening for their benefit.
Challenge accepted, I assume, for my colleagues
Thank
here.
you so much.
Mr. Owens, thank you so much. I
Thank you
appreciate
guys
that.
for coming.
And I would love to get the troop up here if we can all get a picture with them. You know, being involved in your community and in government around you is very important, and it's something that cannot be overstated. So coming in and spending some time, even at this level, you know, Belmont's not huge. Belmont's pretty small in the grand scheme of things, but it's important that you're involved at this level. So thanks for being here. Come on, let's get a picture. I'm excited. Save that picture so when someone says we don't ever do anything fun at city council meetings, just send that to them. All right, we have one more for public comment. Looks like Mr. Ed Ward. Hello.
My name is Ed Ward. I'm with Waste Connections. I know we're on the agenda. I just wanted you to know that I'm here as well as some representatives of Waste Connections when you get to the agenda item on the waste collection contract. So I wasn't sure if you needed me to come up during public comment or when you get to that point. So I'm here if you need me.
Excellent, thank you. I appreciate that. All right. Bear with me for 1 second. Unless my reading glasses here. All right, so that will finish up public comment, move us right along to agenda item C2, consideration and possible adoption of the fiscal year 26-27 budget ordinance. And we have Miles will be walking us through this, but I just want to preface this with how much we appreciate all the work that's going into this. There's a lot that's culminating with this, and I look forward to hopefully getting everything buttoned up and moving along.
Yes, sir. So thank you, Mayor, members of council. In your budget packet, you have a budget message. Attachment 1 is the budget ordinance. Attachment 2 is our approved staffing. Attachment 3 is the budget line items. Attachment 4 is the capital improvement plan for the general fund and the water and sewer fund. And attachment 5 is the proposed fee schedule. I do want to thank you all for your guidance as we move through this process over the past several months. I want to thank the department heads for all the work that they did to prepare their draft budgets. I want to especially thank Jared Piles, Finance Director, and Kevin Krause, Assistant City Manager, who really compiled all the spreadsheets and really did a deep dive, pulled a lot of this information together. And so just thank everybody for that. This budget does invest in our staff, provides a high level of operational service, and invest in the city's infrastructure. You can see that the budget snapshot, the proposed fiscal year 26-27, or our final budget, is $32,826,501. The water and sewer fund is $13,454,836, and the stormwater fund is $966,968. A few of the highlights from the general fund: the budget recommends maintaining the current property tax rate of 0.455 per $100 value to support the general fund. Our revenues for ad valorem tax collection is at 99%. For this coming fiscal year, we're estimated to increase approximately 7% from the previous fiscal year's adopted budget and 4.3% over the amended budget. Our sales tax revenues are estimated to increase 20% from the previous year's adopted budget and 2.8% over the amended budget. The sales tax collection percentage increase is based on the North Carolina Department of Revenue's forecast, and they show a plus 3.1% increase from fiscal year 25-26. So our projected final fiscal year 25-26 collection is around $6.9 million. The budget breakdown by department is listed inside your packet. I'm not going to call all those numbers out, but they're all listed for mayor and council, administration, attorney, planning, zoning, police, fire, streets, sanitation, community development, recreation, our economic development, capital outlay, and our debt. For the water and sewer fund, this fund is solely supported by user fees. We are going to increase the water fees by 8% and the sewer fees by 8%. This is background. This was due to a water and sewer rate study that you all adopted a couple years ago, and since that time we've increased rates for the past 2 years. The stormwater fund highlights: this fund is solely supported by user fees, and really the difference in this year's budget from last year's is the contractor repairs line item has been increased to support our ongoing repairs to the system. The capital improvement plans, really the highlights inside of those two CIP documents to fund capital. $4,132,580 is budgeted as a fund balance appropriation. The total for the 5-year general fund CIP is $84.4 million. The total for the 10-year water and sewer CIP is $134.3 million. And for fiscal year 26-27, the one coming up, it's 45.1 million is budgeted. We do have two large projects. The $10 million state budget allocation is being utilized to fund the engineering construction for the moratorium project that we just spoke of previously. And the total project is expected at 16.7 million. We do plan to bid that project this coming fiscal year, and we do have a placeholder for our Charlotte Water wastewater treatment project in the amount of 26 million. Between all the funds, we have 196 full-time positions. No new positions have been funded for this current year. And during the May 4th, 2026 City Council meeting, we did hold a public hearing, and I presented the balanced budget. This budget has been available for public inspection in the city clerk's office since May 4th. We also placed it on the city's website per Councilman Seelinger's request during the last meeting, so that's been out there as well. So tonight, if you choose, you can adopt the 26-27 budget. So Mayor and Council, thank you all for your leadership and guidance through this process, and I look forward to another successful year.
Thank you, Miles.
Yes, sir.
Just one quick question from me, and I'm going to open it up to everyone. So on page 80 of our packet, when we're looking at the 26-27 manager proposed for the general, other than the final budget, it's roughly a little over 3 million more. Could you explain what the difference there is?
Yes, and that number there was from, it says from the April 6, 2026 meeting. When we made the presentation on May the 4th, the manager's proposed budget was $32,950,126. So it had gone up between like the April meeting to that May meeting to cover some of those items that were requested that we fund inside of the retreat. And so we used a lot of money to fund those projects coming up. So it moved from the number you see there on April 6th from 29.6. And then on May 4th, the manager's proposed was 32.9. And then you can see now it's 32.8. The difference between the 32.950,126 to the recommended budget is that now we have received our solid waste bid. If you recall, I said there was a couple items that were still remaining from the May 4th meeting. One was the solid waste contract. We were still in the negotiation process of that. That number's now been plugged in about what we're recommending tonight. And then our property and liability was still outstanding. We have since received property and liability quotes, and all those lines have been plugged in per each department where we need to fund them. And so really the difference between the May meeting to this meeting were those two items, property and liability and sanitation.
Perfect. So of the things that were still outstanding, nothing is outstanding anymore?
No, sir.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Any questions for Miles?
I know we've done a lot of work on this, and obviously staff has too, but I just was noticing something I wanted to ask about. On the CIP list on page 112, the City Hall renovations, I know we'd approved 3.3 million for that project, but I see it listed both in fiscal 27 and fiscal 30. Is that same amounts listed for both fiscal years?
Yes, fiscal year 29-30 should not be 3.3 million. Good catch.
That should be blank, right? Okay.
Yep, so that project is 3.3 and it's funded in this fiscal year.
Yeah.
So that first column you see there, so we'll make that adjustment. I don't know how that one got plugged in the very back end of it.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. So is there any update, if we all recall what we discussed last time, Project Tundra, and how it impacts this existing budget, if we're anticipating to vote this? Any update?
Yeah. Miles?
Yes,
Do you have
I have
an
an
update
update on that. So I reached out to the two entities and scheduled a meeting with them, and we had that meeting last Friday with the city and the two entities. the letter of intent or MOU, one of the entities said that they could draft that for us, and they'll have that to us this Friday. What we anticipate doing at that point is reviewing it. Parks and I will review it, and then bring that to you all for your review coming up. But like I mentioned before, I don't want that to delay us in like the vote of the budget. Given that I don't plan to spend down any of the $2.1 million for that design at all until we have full approval from council on the MOU and we start that process moving forward. Even to move to the next step, if we hire a designer, it's got to go through a process that you all would be involved in. We would bring that back to you all and bring that amount to you all. So it's good to have the monies in the budget. Doesn't mean we're going to spend it down. If it falls apart, then so be it. You all can allocate that 2.1 to another project, or don't have to spend it at all. It can go back into unassigned fund balance. But yes, we did meet, and so like I said, Parks and I will be looking at the draft MOU.
And they understand the urgency too. Like, we want to get this wrapped up. We want to commit funds to projects that we can execute, not like.
That was my preamble, I believe, speech whenever I met with them, was trying to tell them how important this is. Even on the agenda, I put time is of the essence. I explained to them that we're in the budget process and that here are some of your comments, and I recalled your comments to those folks to say, hey, how important this is. They're even considering, not to spend the funds on this project, could spend the funds somewhere else. And so I think they got the message.
So we should have an update by Friday then, right?
What's that?
We should have an update by Friday?
We should have an update by Friday internally. I don't think that you all will probably have an update on Friday.
Okay.
I think that once me and Parks can look through it to make sure we're comfortable with it, then we bring it to you all like it needs to be at that point. But we were shooting for hopefully the July meeting to bring that back to you all.
Yeah.
I anticipate, like, just my suggestion, right, is, let's say, barring any type of other stuff that may need to push it further out than July, but if we don't hear from it on the July and get this all buttoned up, I think there needs to probably have a re-meeting between council and the group as a collective body to see what are we doing, right? I mean,
You're
I
talking
think.
about like all parties involved, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just having seen the way that this is developed, I think to staff's credit, I think it does make sense, since we've already kind of got comfortable with the allocated money in the CIP, to let it live there. We're going to continue chasing this thing. It may make, it may not make. But from my understanding, if it doesn't make, we're really not in a worse off position having pre-allocated or earmarked, so to speak, that
No,
amount.
but like I said, planning takes time, right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So
I think,
if it
right.
comes July and we're still in the same situation, I think the conversation needs to be had. Let's take our $2.1 million elsewhere and do something else in the community.
Sure, yeah.
Understood.
Any other questions for Miles about the budget? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Motion to approve is presented.
Motion made by Jason,
Second.
second by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this passes unanimously.
Good job.
Good job, staff.
Thank you.
You for that. Thank you for getting that.
Good catch on the city hall.
Yeah, look at eagle eyes.
And, Miles did mention it, I think I mentioned this last time, like, this was a relatively quick piece tonight, but this started back in
Yes.
February. I mean,
Yeah.
this is actually pre that. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion, a lot of inputs, and a lot of time and effort put into this. So
Yeah.
sometimes we get the comments, well, that was quick. Well, this has been happening for months.
Yeah, it was
Really a
I
year-long
can tell you as a newbie, in the position and seeing the process, it's an extensive process, but it's an important process.
Yeah.
And it's not something I know that I can speak for my colleagues up here, say no one takes it lightly. And so it is a long process, but it does, to Alex's point, it does sometimes seem like what you see is kind of a quick moving process. So we try to make it easy for you. All right, so that continue to move us right along here. We are at agenda item C3, solid waste and recycling contract discussion. And we have, let's see, Jonathan, come on up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So before you tonight is the solid waste contract for the city for the next 5 years. We did bid this contract on January 20th, 2026. Bids were due on March 5th, 2026. The city received 3 bids for this service contract. Waste Pro, who currently provides service to the city, Waste Connections, and Active Waste were the 3 bidders. Bid tab is attached showing those bids. After review and deliberation with Waste Connections and Waste Pro as our current vendor for this service contract, Waste Pro's numbers did slightly change. That information is in the packet, in the spreadsheets. Additionally, the city currently provides dumpster service to some older apartment complexes, which is not common practice now. We are requesting, with the approval of this contract, to no longer provide that service to those users after 6 months, and it would require them to obtain their own service, which is why you see that second spreadsheet in the packet only showing those dumpster charges, the 4-yard, 6-yard, and 8-yard dumpster charges for 6 months. Staff is recommending to award the contract to Waste Connections as the low bidder. Additionally, we would request the approval to discontinue that dumpster service after 6 months, which would be January 1st, 2027. And then lastly, to allow the city manager and city attorney to enter into contract negotiations with Waste Connections. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
So let me see if I understand this all correctly. So when this was originally bid, based on the bids submitted and the services that were requested at that time, Waste Pro was the low bidder. And then something changed with respect to their bid after the bids were submitted. Is that correct?
No, sir. Waste
Okay.
Connections was the low bidder. It was a mistake on staff's part with the initial spreadsheet.
Okay.
In calculating if I remember correctly, it was the bulk pickup was carried over a
So-
12-month
Waste
charge instead
Connections
of,
was still the lowest.
So Waste Connections has always been the low bidder,
yes,
no matter which way you,
correct.
all right. I'm confused because I swear in the agenda packet itself, if you don't take out the dumpster removal after 6 months, then Waste Pro was the low
That's
bidder.
correct, yes,
Okay.
I apologize. That is
All right.
correct. Waste Pro is the low bidder if you do not remove the dumpsters.
Okay, all right. So nothing changed, no numbers were revised after the bids were submitted. There was some reference to a stair-step program, what's that?
That's correct. So Waste Pro did come back to the city and offered a stair-step program. I don't want to put words into their mouth, but the way I understand that program is they wouldn't charge us the full increase in years 1 and 2. It would slowly, gradually get to that point.
I see. And so you also said that it's not typical for municipal services to collect refuse and recycling from apartment complexes, that such apartment complexes usually utilize their own services for
Correct.
such.
Mhm.
Okay. And you also, I believe, said in the report that you've talked to neighboring communities about Waste Connections and there was no negative feedback.
Correct.
What communities do they serve, just out of curiosity?
The 2 that I was able to speak with were Huntersville and I believe it was a city east of Charlotte. I don't
Indian Trail?
recall. Indian Trail, yes, thank you,
Okay.
Miles. They both had great things to say about the company. I believe it was Indian Trail is working on contract negotiations with Waste Connection currently to extend their contract.
Okay. And we just went through some shifts in service dates for waste and recycling. Assuming that we follow staff's recommendation and approve staff to enter into the contract with Waste Connections, is staffing, delivery, routes, services, is that going to remain the same, or are we looking at potentially changing service routes and dates again?
Waste Connections is here. I think they may be able to speak to that a little better than I can. We did ask them that question in a meeting with them, and they indicated that they would be willing to keep the same routes, same service day that we currently have.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think it's important that we keep it as painless on the residents as possible. Because we're not talking about huge margins, but not turning the apple cart over to change that, I think is important.
On a more technical approach to this, what is the conversion plan here?
Yeah.
Right, so we all have Waste Pro dumpsters and stuff like that. What's like, understanding the numbers here, but there's always like what I think Joe is alluding to is a cost to convert. So not necessarily dollars, but energy and time to
Right.
convert this, right? So like what is the proposed plan on converting to if we were to decide to award Waste Connections?
I would like to call Waste Connections up to speak
That's fine.
directly to that, if that's
Let's
okay.
do that.
So, Mr. Ward, thank you for coming back up. I guess the question that we have for you is, how does this play out? In the event, there's a lot, as you know, this is not new to you, but it's new to us.
Yes.
And how does that look when we decide to go back to our residents and we say, your trash can's changing, your pickup is being told it's not changing, but here's what you can expect to happen. Because nobody likes to play in the garbage, nobody likes this stuff, but the fact of the matter is it's very important, and it's important that it works well.
Very good. Again, thank you. Again, Ed Ward. So I'm the Municipal Relations Manager. I'm joined tonight with Pam Stein. Pam is the District Manager at our Charlotte operation. I'm going to let her address your question, sir, regarding the transition plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. So, I mean, like you said, it's something we're very experienced in. So, we actually use a local cart manufacturer right here in Charlotte, which is great. So they're already on standby, ready to go with the carts that we need if awarded this contract. And what that would look like is they would, they need probably around 8 or 9 days to get all the carts delivered. So as long as we could have the list of addresses, they would deploy their team to deliver all the carts within 8 days or so. And depending on contract negotiations, they could start that. At the latest, we would have to be able to start it by June 22nd in order to have it, all the carts deployed by June 30th. But they're, kind of ready to make adjustments if needed to make sure that it happens. And they would just need a staging area to, a lot of times, with school being out, like a school parking lot or such is great, to be able to stage the carts and deploy their team.
All right, I have a follow-up question to that, and I know I'm going to ask it, somebody's going to say, that was right there. Are these carts the exact same size as the ones we currently have?
They are.
Okay,
They are.
thank you.
And then how many carts are we anticipating?
Yeah, it's probably about 16,000 carts for trash and recycle, so.
And
16,000
Y'all
each.
supplier has already committed that,
total.
So it's 8,000
Eight-
trash,
who-
8,000
Are they
recycle.
gonna pick up the old ones at the same time? Is that-
That would probably be Waste Pro, I'm assuming, that would collect theirs.
Would they be on the same timeline, or?
That was the question I had. Like,
Well,
what's
yeah,
that contract look like?
Yeah,
Have
well,
them
I would
picked
have
up.
4 out there.
so, but just real quick, going back to this, to confirm, your supplier has said that they will be available, or 16,000 cans will be available for rollout by June 22nd to have everything and all of these delivered by the 30th, I guess?
That's correct.
Okay, and there's no concern with that?
No, like I said, the great thing is it's a local cart manufacturer, and we work with them over many different contracts that we have, so, we're definitely, very confident that they'll be able to do that.
Jonathan, this is a small issue in the grand scheme of things, but the new plan we approved for Poplar Street with the yard waste collection, those extra bins, I think, or is this kind of included in that?
No.
Okay.
That
That's a
was
whole
separate
different
from.
Yeah,
company?
that's city.
But the city
Because
will be
I
picking
was
those
curious
up.
about that too.
The city's,
The
okay.
yard waste pickup is
Yeah, that's
city.
yard waste.
Sorry.
right? Yeah,
All
that's
right.
totally.
We bought those
different
by
ball lights
ourselves.
there.
Yeah.
So when does Waste Pro, if we were to agree to this, when do they stop servicing, I guess?
June 30th.
So June 30th, so everything needs to be buttoned up. And Waste Pro, to Joe's point, they're going to come by and pick up their cans?
I would assume so.
Well, we may want to just double check on that because that would be pretty bad. I don't have a place to store 2 additional cans right now. And a lot of residents will probably be asking about that. What do they do with the Waste Pro cans?
Take a couple extra.
Put them all in Charlie's yard.
Yeah.
But
We'll have a
when would
yard
they be
waste.
expecting to pick those up, I guess would be my other question. Because what I don't want to happen is someone is without trash cans during this middle point when we, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to understand is it worth the squeeze to convert? Like, sure, I get it from a finance perspective, but does it make sense to all the implications that this may cause?
I think you might have double cans at your house versus like no cans. I think that they would work to deliver cans before June 30th. June 30th is the contract ending date for Waste Pro. Waste Pro comes and picks up
Yeah.
their cans somewhere close after that, but you might have
That's
4 cans at your house for a small period of time.
That's my concern.
Do you know,
I'd have
does
to
staff know, in the current Waste Pro contract, is there some provision that requires the pickup at the termination of the contract?
I do not know.
Any other questions for Waste Connections? We can call you back up, so don't go too far.
But
Okay.
just to confirm again, I know it's been, but the schedule, our existing schedule is not changing.
That's correct.
And, I mean, I'm sure you guys are going to say yes, but I'm assuming you guys feel comfortable and confident that you guys will be able to accommodate that schedule with y'all's infrastructure, I guess, and employment, and all that stuff. Because one thing we ran across was Waste Pro, it sometimes became unreliable when it came to pickup dates. And sometimes they would skip neighborhoods and stuff like that, which is why we moved to the new schedule. So you guys feel comfortable that you guys will be able to execute?
We do.
I could add 2 points before we sit down. A lot of times, and again, you need to ask some of these questions regarding removal of the carts to Waste Pro, but in my experience, the crews that come in also sometimes will remove the carts. That'll be something they'll need to set up if they want to. They may not, they may have their own plans. So that's one option that's usually, that I've seen done in the past. The other thing was in regards to your question on our ability. The one contract that was not mentioned that we serviced and probably is our newest is the city of Kannapolis. It was about 22,000 homes. We started it in 2024, and it was up and running. And they would, I'm surprised they didn't reply to Jonathan's request, but that's another one. We took it over from Waste Management, and they've been happy. We've been meeting with them on a regular basis. So that's another example of being able to do this. And this town is roughly 8,000 homes. So the city of Kannapolis would be another reference for us.
And Jonathan, since this is a true expiration of the contract, there's no like termination costs or anything like that with Waste Pro?
I have not seen any in the current contract.
So there's no like basically once the contract ends, that's the end of it.
You'd have to look at the contract, but I would imagine if it was for a 5-year term that there might be some sort of renewal provisions, which I'm assuming were not invoked, and otherwise the contract would just expire at the end of its term, and the parties go their separate ways. You know, maybe there's something in there about picking up cans at the conclusion of the contract, but I'm sure I've seen it, because we would have approved it 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't recall.
Which is the bids are so close together that it
Yeah.
wouldn't take much in any sort of like end of term expenses to kind of tip the math one way or the other.
Any other questions for Waste Connections? You guys can feel free to have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jonathan, real quick, and I don't want to jump in front of any of these questions, but explain to me a little bit about the dumpsters that are at the existing apartments. So this is something that the city has provided to them. Do they contract with the city for this? Is this just something that's been happening for years and years and nobody's really thought about it, and it's been an expense on the city?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Do we know
And
how
is it
many
just
there are?
apartments? I thought it was other businesses too. Is it just apartments?
It's mainly apartments. There is the collective on Glenway that is business related. We would continue that, but there are changes to the fee schedule to capture those costs that we would then be paying for that service, which aren't currently there.
Which apartment complexes?
Put you on the spot.
They're much smaller complexes.
So it's not like Chronicle or Aberfall?
No.
So when we go to these businesses in these apartment complexes and we say, you know, well, it was kind of, I don't know if we didn't know what was happening or whatever it may be, what kind of bill are we going to be handing them to move forward with the same services they're now getting for whatever they're getting it for?
Or would they contract on their own?
They would
That would
They
be
would
my
contract
They
on
would
their
just,
own.
they would have to go find somebody.
Yes, they would find their own company, and I would imagine whoever is the lowest provider.
Okay, sure.
Lowest rate. But it's anywhere from a 4-yard dumpster is they're all a couple $100,
And depending on the frequency.
depending on
Yeah,
how often they're
okay.
picked up, and that all goes into it.
Are we already starting to give those notices out?
We have not,
That'll be going out well before the end of the month?
yes.
Well, they get a 6-month
Yeah,
grace period
right.
anyway.
Yeah, we're trying to give them
I've-
like 6 months. Go ahead and send notices out. They could cancel their service anytime with us if they can go out and find another provider.
Gotcha.
So just so I'm clear again, because there seems to be some angst or controversy about this whole thing, because I see two competing sets of representatives here. The initial bid process, Waste Pro was lower. You decided that you wanted to remove the dumpster service from the legacy apartment complexes. That made Waste Connections the low bidder, is that correct?
That is correct.
And then that's when Waste Pro approached you about this quote-unquote stair-step program?
I don't remember the specific timing. They may have
Mhm.
approached us with the stair step prior to the staff's decision to end the legacy program for dumpsters.
And what was the thought process about saying, well, let's take out the apartment complex dumpsters after?
From what I've seen, and I would want to confirm this with the finance director, most of these apartment complexes were just being charged the regular residential rate. They were not being charged what someone with a dumpster service should be charged.
Okay. And it's staff's recommendation that we contract with Waste Connections for the next service contract?
That's correct.
Okay.
So under this, we would just be providing carts to, I guess, is it homes and businesses, or?
It is homes and businesses. A business, I believe, in our ordinance, code of laws states that they can request up to 3 carts for a business.
Okay. How do they pay for that?
Currently, I am not 100% sure. I believe moving forward, they would be charged for 3 carts if that's what they chose.
Okay.
Is that 3 total, as in 2 garbage, 1 recycle, or 3 each?
It's not clear in the ordinance.
Is that something we need to
I feel like
clean
that's
up?
probably pretty important to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
So I know-
cleaning up. That's the reason we're asking for like
So
the
to
way
speak.
we're changing things and want to do
Asking
things in the
for
future.
direction,
We've performed like audits of all these accounts. We found the issue with the dumpster. Pretty much the citizens were subsidizing the apartment, so we didn't think that was fair. So we're trying to do the right thing. Say, hey, businesses, you can go out on your own. To go back to Jim's point, I think it's important, Jonathan, that when the bid was structured, really we wanted to make sure it was like an apples to apples kind of bid, but we had Waste Pro that was already our provider, and they had our cans. They didn't have to buy cans
Right.
for this project, and all the other companies had to buy cans to have the city of Belmont as the provider. And so we knew that that's how we needed to structure the bid so we can get like a fair bid.
That's fair.
And then, given that Waste Pro was our existing provider, there was no issues on why we wanted to like remove Waste Pro and hire Waste Connection. We're trying to think about it from the perspective of what's the best price for the citizens at the end of the day. And so we went to Waste Pro to say, hey, if we, you're already the provider, give us a quote, given that you already have the cans in place. And so we gave Waste Pro the opportunity, trying to work through that process with us to say, you know, is it fair that you'd have to give us a quote just to put new cans down when everybody has cans already? So we kind of worked through the process with Waste Pro. Waste Pro gave us that alternate price that Jonathan included inside the council packet, and it was compared to Waste Connection's bid. Even in the meeting with Waste Connection, I asked Waste Connection, I was like, I can't do my job as a city manager if I'm not asking you, is this the lowest price that you can give us for your services? And Waste Connection confirmed that the bid that they gave was their lowest price. And so therefore we knew that Waste Connection had their lowest price. We worked with Waste Pro on an alternate price, given that they had our service, and we didn't think that was fair for them just to change out all the cans, just be changing out cans. And so it came down to the numbers at the end of the day, and that's what we're presenting today, is that we're basing it on hard facts. We've got two companies that do good service. They both are qualified. I'm sure you check Waste Pro's references. They've done an excellent job in other places, but at the end of the day, we had to look at it and make a decision that was based on that alone.
That's a good point, because you're right. They're going to be, Waste Connections is going to be providing what, free on loan equipment, or the trash cans. And we already have that capital outlay in the city.
Yeah.
And
So
you're
we-
only, they're 40,000 something odd higher. I guess I don't understand that. That's a good call out.
Yeah, we tried to be as fair as we could to like both vendors. You know, we got an existing service. We had to put it out because our contract was expiring. We want to get the best rate. And so this is kind of the process we used to get to the point where Jonathan's standing there recommending Waste Connection. So just a little bit more, tad bit more
And that,
information there.
the alternate, you know, so after considering everything, including the alternate proposal from Waste Pro, it's still the recommendation to use Waste Connections.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
It would be helpful to know if this contract were approved with Waste Connections, if the existing contract with Waste Pro does include any kind of collection fee to come around and pick up the carts, or if there's any, I don't imagine if this isn't into the contract that there's any termination.
That's what I was curious about,
But
any costs out the
any
back door.
Yeah, because if we had these cans to begin with when they took over, are we going to be charged for them to go and collect them?
I don't think so, because we've been paying for them all along. It's a fee that we have incurred to buy those cans over a period of time, just like we're going to probably be buying these cans from Waste Connection over a period of time. It's kind of factored into the price. We can go back, we'll definitely go
We
back
can,
and look at
yeah,
Waste
look at the
Pro's contract. If we feel that there's anything in there that we didn't plan for or budget for that's going to, you know, throw a monkey wrench into the machine, then we'd probably stop the process and bring it back to y'all for consideration. But we do want to be fair to Waste Connection as well.
And to the residents, because it
Well-
sounds like we need,
Yeah.
you know, there's not going to be much lead time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the point of us putting it on this agenda, so that we can give Waste Connection an appropriate amount of time to do the things they need to, so they're not like failing to begin with, and then we have a lot of complaints.
And
so-
sufficient notice for us to get that notice out to residents.
Because this is, we're June 1st right now, right? Another thought from maybe a technical perspective, so like, let's say that a business today has 3 cans with this agreement. I mean, do we have inventory and know how many people, because what if they just get 2? Like, are they going to have to go out of their way to disrupt their normal day-to-day to then call and try to get the hassle of getting 3 or 2, whatever it is? You know what I mean? Like, is it a 1-for-1 replacement? Let's say I'm a business owner and I got 3 cans, I'm going to get 3 cans? Or am I going to get 2 and then I'm going to have to call to get that additional can?
More than likely, they will need to let us know that they have more than 1 can.
Because this is what I mean, like a conversion disruption, right? Because this is going to be time on residents and or businesses to be able to, across the community, to do that.
Well, I think that's to Jason's point. If we can get that notice out early enough, they can start
Well,
making
and then when
plans
they
for that.
call in,
Yeah.
say, I need 3 cans, can we use that as an opportunity to make sure we're collecting the revenue we're
Right.
supposed to be getting on those?
Yeah.
Who do they call specifically? Waste Connections or us?
They will call us.
They will call us. Do
Yes.
we have the staffing to be able to, across the community, take on all of those calls, document who's getting what and who's not? I mean, we just got to
Yes.
be realistic with
Well,
ourselves,
it's
Yes.
mostly gonna be the businesses, right? Because I mean, the residents aren't gonna.
Well,
Some,
Yeah.
yeah, some probably
altogether,
would. not
right?
ma- but-
I'm just
but-
trying to make sure, do we?
yeah, I know
can
there are
we do it?
multiple businesses that have multiple cans.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure most of them
I'm sure
do.
pharmacy does.
I can promise y'all, there's gonna be hiccups. I'll say it
With
right
any
now.
change, there's
Sure.
gonna be.
There's gonna be some
Yeah.
people that probably don't get the can that they had ordered in the past, and
Sure.
we'll have to work through that.
That's to be
There'll-
expected.
any kind of changeover between 8,000 residents, there's gonna be a few
Yeah.
bumps in the
Sure.
road at
Yeah.
the end of it, I think. But we'll do our best we can to send it out, like Jonathan's saying, pass that information up. If there's a change, if we deliver something or Waste Connection delivers something that's different, work with Waste Connection. I'm sure they'll be jumping right on it, given that we're possibly a new customer for them, so.
And to Mark's point, for the 3 cans, that was not specified as 3 total or 3 each for waste and recycling, right?
Yeah, you said there's some
Yeah.
ambiguity as far
Yeah.
as like.
Correct.
And we're gonna clean that up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if we need to amend.
And that's in the city side, not with Waste Connections
Correct. That's in
contract,
our
right?
city
That's
code
our
laws.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So I understand,
Or the land
it's
development
just, it's
code.
kind of
Yes, okay.
ambiguous? Okay. all right.
yeah.
So we can address that. Not have to worry about any changes to the contract.
No, and again, I'm not calling this out to bring it down. I think we just need to be very cognizant and aware. And if I'm watching this or reading these minutes, I want to make sure that our council is asking these questions, because it's going to be disruptive, right?
Yeah, I know staff has put there's been a lot of back and forth with this specific issue. So I think staff is trying to make their way through to the best resolution. I don't think any of us want a nightmare scenario with trash cans.
No, because if your route got missed once, we know all the
Oh, yes.
feedback we
Oh, yes.
received then.
And that's fair, that's fair.
It
You
is.
gotta have
I
your
mean, it
trash
is.
picked up, and that's important.
And
But
there was an issue with Cramerton where they had blue cans with green lids and green cans with blue lids, and
Oh,
everybody was
Lord.
confused. Is that gonna be an issue here where we get 2 new cans and they're multicolored and nobody knows which one's which?
Is this a 5-year contract?
We thought about getting red cans.
There you go.
Yes, Tim.
that's fair. That's fair.
I just see it in the recommendation.
I don't
I-
really know the color of the cans that y'all are
See the
proposing.
contract.
Do y'all know the color of the cans for?
Navy blue face and a navy blue lid for trash.
Perfect.
Navy blue
Okay.
base and a yellow for recycling.
Could make it Carolina blue.
Yeah.
Well, that I would associate Carolina blue with trash, so.
Strike that from the record.
Yeah.
That's an official statement there.
Coming from the early exit deacons.
Say again.
I was asking if Waste Pro representatives with Waste Pro was here tonight.
I believe there is, yes. Would you like?
I mean, would it
would
be
you like me
prudent to have them up and ask them
If
questions as well?
you have questions, I'll be happy to call them up.
Yeah.
All right.
We can at least maybe.
Can we have a representative from Waste Pro? Please join us up here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Chip Jingles. I'm the Regional Vice President of the Carolinas. So,
Thank you for joining us. I think we
Happy
have
to
some
be here.
questions for you.
okay.
I think the one right off the top of the bat, I mean, again, if we're looking at the comparison in cost, because I just want to make sure from a council level I understand this, Miles brings up a really good point. With the capital outlay that Waste Connection's going to have to do that you don't have to do, why are you guys more expensive?
Well, that's a tricky question. So, when we look at the bid results and the numbers, I know it's very complicated, right? And there are a lot of things to consider. When we look at it, we feel like we're still the low bid. We do. But, I understand the staff's calculations. And, the irony of it is, too, that we know we were definitely the low bid with the commercial, right, when we had the commercial. Another irony in it, and that is, I think our team was actually maybe even brought up the idea of eliminating the commercial, because we consider ourselves partners of this community, so we're not just always looking to see how we can make an extra dollar or something like that. So several things to get back to your question. Number one, we don't really feel like we are the higher bidder, but we understand those are the calculations, so we understand that. And, you know, if you look at our pricing, you know, Waste Connections had a very aggressive recycle number in their bid, which I haven't seen probably in like 15 years, so it's very low. So, I mean, that's just not something that we're able to do. So, you know, I think that that's the difference in the numbers. Like you all noted, the numbers are very close, and it depends on how you look at it. I like looking at it with the commercial, so.
Do you know, and you may not, and if not, that's okay, but typically when you are coming to the end of a contract with another municipalities that you service, if there's a change of providers away from Waste Pro, what is the process of the can collection? And is there any charge or expense to the municipality for the pickups of those cans?
Yeah, so I don't know about a charge. I mean, that's something, the only thing I know on the contract, you could still do an extension. And let's see, another concern would be just the timing of everything. So, you know, historically, we always like to have a little bit of a time, a little bit of a leeway for such a transition. You know, I was listening to Waste Connections say that, you know, they could need by June 22nd. I mean, you'd have some residents getting their last recycle pickup the week prior. So, you know, time is really of the essence there. That's what I would know about the transition, but we haven't had an opportunity yet to speak about that.
But I guess in that example, though, like to the week prior, because that's where I was trying to get to. Because my concern is any lapse in service, but technically Waste Pro would be responsible to continue to pick that up the week prior to June 30th, because that would be under the term of our agreement.
Yes, we will pick up through the end of the contract. What I'm noting is the fact that you'd have some residents, when you have A and B week recycling.
You're saying you got your trash under you guys and then recycling under Connections?
No,
right?
I'm saying that some residents would possibly get their last service prior to June 22nd. That's what I'm saying.
All for the recycling?
Oh,
Yeah,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But if the schedule stays consistent, then
No,
it
but what
goes-
he's saying
It's not
is, so
gonna be a
like, you get your last recycling like June 20th,
Mhm.
but you don't get the can from Waste Connections to put your other recycling in
For a
until
week or
maybe
so.
Oh,
the
I got
following
you.
week.
Yeah.
So there's one of your hiccups.
You have any other questions? Waste Pro? Thank you.
But
Can
you do collect your cans, right?
Yes,
You're
we
gonna
will
come
collect our
and
cans.
collect,
Can I
okay.
speak for just a moment?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sure. Knock it out, man.
You know, because for me, I'm somewhat of a local guy. I grew up in Gastonia. I have family and friends right here in Belmont. My stepmom lives right off of Hawthorne, so, you know, it's been an honor and a privilege for us to come and service your community. You know, I take it personal, you know, making sure that we do a good job here. I joined the Carolinas for a second time at Waste Pro back in 2018. And so when I came in 2018, we had some service issues, and we got those things rectified, and I'd like to say that we've done a good job since then. You also know that, you know, we're really a leader in the municipal market here in the local area. We have over 22 contracts in this area, just in this area alone. And you can use any of them for reference at any time. So, you know, we are proud of what we do. And the thing that separates us from our competition, like you said, they're very, very qualified, and I'm sure they do a great job in the towns that they service. But, you know, what I like to talk about is the Waste Pro difference, and that's our people. You know, so you can get a comparable staff, a comparable trucks, and all of that, but, you know, you won't get me, and you won't get my team. And I'll say that I think that my team is the best. And that starts with our leadership from the top down. So we're owned by privately held Mr. John Jennings. And, you know, at our company, it's good and bad. Anybody can contact our CEO on up at any time. You know, so we're a little bit different from the larger privately held companies. And we take a great deal of pride in the service that we do, and we appreciate it. All right?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more question actually for Waste Connections.
Sure, Waste
Number-
Connections. Do you mind coming back to the podium?
So this was one of the things that was pointed out, I think, in our early analysis of this, was there was a huge savings, if you will, in what you had quoted for recycle per unit versus Waste Pro. In fact, it's more than 50% less. Can you expand on that, on how you're able to offer those recycling services at such a lesser cost than what we are currently paying?
Right, so, I mean, but to look at it just on that line item is difficult.
Okay.
So when you look at trash, you could also say that we're $1.25 higher per month than the Waste Pro bid. We have carts, that cost is in there. In this revised pricing that Waste Pro's provided, it's not. The other thing I'll mention about the carts is the carts are new. Your carts, as far as I could tell, are about 10 years old, because I followed your contract since I came to the Carolinas, and I believe the last time this was up for bid, the same kind of offer was made to use the existing capital, which is fine, but we're providing brand-new carts. So that's a benefit to the town over something that's been in place for a number of years. I didn't mean to go off topic for your question, but
No, that makes sense, but I mean, on the recycling topic, and I don't know how much you know, the technology that perhaps some of your competitors are using, but are there any advantages that Waste Connections brings to the table in terms of recycling that can keep your cost even, factoring in the higher cost for solid waste collection
right.
that you bring to the table?
In your contract, so basically our services are just collection. In other markets, we do own and operate MRFs, recycling facilities, that have a lot of that new technology. I think we're lucky in this market that the Mecklenburg County MRF has upgraded and continues to upgrade with a lot of those types of air classifiers, optical sorters, robotics. When I was on a Zoom call when we met with your staff, and I mentioned, because I watched an earlier video, there were some questions amongst you regarding recycling. Was it worth it? Is it, what are some of the other communities doing? How much is recycled? I heard all those questions, and I've been in the industry over 35 years. So on average, recycling's 75% is usually recyclable. 25% of your tons is typically residue. That's kind of a common number that's out there regarding communities. If you do a really good job from an educational standpoint, you might get that number up to 80% versus another community that does no education that could have, say, 50%. So it varies all over the board, but there's no easy answer to tell. We don't have a silver bullet that says our costs are. We look at it as a whole.
So it'd be your opinion that recycling is definitely worth the cost?
Yes. And you would, and again, a lot of the topic tonight dealt around public disruption. That would be a big disruptor for this community. If you've done it for however
Sure.
many years and you take it away.
Yeah, but it's been an ongoing discussion, so it's good to get your perspective on
Yeah.
some of those numbers that you mentioned.
How much, this might be one, maybe just ballpark, but how much does a can cost, just one can?
Roughly
I would say
65.
roundabout about $60.
about 60, 65.
And then you guys probably amortize that over a couple of years because it's free on loan, but still, I would have anticipated the other deal to be about $1 million less, right? Because I'm hung up on now what you were saying, Miles, because that's a really good call out to try to make this an apples to apples comparison in regards to what is the taxpayers getting, right?
Any other questions for Waste Connection?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One clarification. I'm sorry, sir, what we're asking regarding on the original bid. When this was originally bid, the low bid, and if Jonathan, our calculations showed us clearly as a low bid. It wasn't until the request for additional or alternate pricing came up that, I don't even think it was close.
Yeah,
But
we have, it's in the, if you look at the bid tabulation that is in your packet, Waste Connections was the low bid originally.
just a point of clarification, that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I don't want to belabor the point, but it is confusing to some degree, and it's very close. But I'm just going to throw out my suggestion, and I will absolutely lean on you all, your opinion as well. you know, as a resident, I like my trash picked up, and that's important to me. But as a mayor, what's important to me is being good stewards of the residents' money and leaning on our staff that is way deeper in this than I am. And so yeah, my personal feeling on this is because I can't delineate or see into the future and know what's going to happen with these and whether we're going to have these hiccups or not, I want to default to being good stewards of the money and leaning on staff to tell us what they feel like is the best situation. So that's my 2 cents on it.
Is this pretty much fully loaded after 5 years, or is there any like negotiations that would come in during, let's say, if we go with Waste Connections to drive this cost up any higher, or is this pretty much locked and loaded from a contract perspective?
It's a 5-year contract. I don't know how the end language would be, but I'm sure that we could work it out in 5 years if we didn't want to go out to bid again to possibly renegotiate a contract without going out to bid.
Well, there's different provisions that you could put in there. You could put in like an exclusive renegotiation window or right of first refusal or an option or all sorts of-
Extension for 2
Yeah.
years or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
We don't have the contract in front of us yet, so.
Yeah.
Okay, because the only call out I would do is like, which I'm sure you guys will look into, but like, because I do believe there's a massive stark difference, about $1 million, right? But like, what I don't want is we get sold on this and all of a sudden the pricing due to surcharge or some type of, what would you call it, inflationary type of hit, like force majeure would drive this up to the city. You know, that's the only thing I'm
Well,
worried about.
Right. But I mean, that's sort of the whole point of a force majeure clause. I mean, is it's something that you don't anticipate like an act of God. So,
Well, you don't always have to put a force majeure price.
well, you don't have to put it in, and you can negotiate what's considered a force majeure event.
You could put parameters, indices,
Sure.
and stuff like
Sure.
that. That's the call out I'm saying. I just don't want this to be unchecked, which I'm not saying it would be. And then we just get this massive price increase.
I think
Right.
the motion, one of the motion, or the suggested motion here, is to allow the city manager to negotiate and enter into that contract. And it can absolutely have a preface that says, listen, you gotta look at the exit of the existing contract and make sure that there's no type of charge that we're gonna hit prior to entering into this new contract. I think that would,
But I mean, there's also something, because I remember having this discussion with Parks, and this was before I was even on city council. I was sitting in the audience, and I, as a professor who teaches contracts, I was going crazy because Waste Pro came, I think sometime in 2018, and said, our costs are going up, we'd like to amend the contract and raise the rates. And you know, that's not, typically you don't have to do that because it's something called the pre-existing duty rule, that they wanted basically to renegotiate the contract and for us to pay more without them giving us anything in return, basically performing the same services for an increased price. And I talked to Parks after the meeting and said, that's a pre-existing duty rule. You don't have to accept that amendment. So, you know, that's sort of the thing. If the contract, you know, sets forth a price, that's sort of the risk that both parties take. You know, we run the risk that maybe we've overpaid or there's some hiccups, but you know, they run the risk that if their costs go up so that it doesn't turn out to be a good deal for them, well, they're locked, as you said, locked and loaded, and they can come and say, oh, well, our costs are going up, can we please increase our rates? And we can say, no, we don't elect to do that, and we're not required to do that because there's no consideration for this. So, you know, to some extent we're protected, but, you know, that's sort of the nature of any contract is we think we're getting a better deal. They think they're making a good deal. One of us might be proven wrong, but that's sort of the risk anyone takes in entering any contract.
Well, I'm just bringing it up to potentially hedge ourselves and protect ourselves during that type of negotiation, right? Particularly if you think about like the Iranian crisis and stuff like that, fuel surcharge, like I just want us to be protected, right?
And we you know, but I mean, there's nothing. You can protect yourself as best you envision under the circumstances, but I can't sit here, and I don't think Parks can sit here, that we can come up with something that will insulate us from absolutely anything that could come up.
I'm not suggesting, I'm just saying that, calling it out, right? Because something just doesn't make sense to me from a math perspective unless we're just getting overcharged by Waste Pro, right? That's just my 2 cents.
And I do wish I've been looking, while this interesting discussion has been going on, I've been looking for for the current contract. I found our approval of it, but I can't find the contract itself, because it would be helpful to just understand what the end game provisions are in that contract, and so that we could be 100% sure that there's no, unexpected termination costs. But I can't find it, so I'm sure it's somewhere, but I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to whether there's.
Yeah. I think what I would do, again, is if we're going to be considering whether we're going to essentially approve Miles to make this contract, then in that motion, can we not say, prior to entering in or negotiating that contract, that there's a review of the exit provisions with our Waste Pro agreement, and assuming there are no unknowns that are going to materially change the agreement that we assume that we're going into, then Miles would move forward with that
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah.
Jim, you see anything from a legal standpoint on that would not work? I think that would work.
So it's like a conditional approval.
Well, in a way, I mean, that
Yeah.
at least gives us the opportunity
Well,
to
to
look.
at least be informed of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I think that's fine. Now, what happens if Miles comes and, there's a 20% surcharge for.
Then we're going to be talking about this again
Yeah.
next month.
On June the 15th, this will be on the workshop
Yeah,
agenda.
Yes.
yeah.
Do we have to
I think
approve the
that's
new
fine.
contract either way?
Not if you direct staff to work with our city attorney to.
Okay.
Which is
execute the
probably, I think that's what we did 5 years ago, which
Yeah.
is why it's not in the
Yeah.
agenda packet.
If we,
Right.
We could always do that. I mean, you just parks, you get a carry. You'll work a little extra on this one, and it sounds like if that's the direction the council decides to go.
if we do decide to go with Waste Connections, is there a way for us to prioritize the people that would be negatively hit with this recycle window? Like, is there a way for us, let's say we decide to go with Waste Connections, is there a way for us to get recycling bins to those individuals earlier so that they're not left with, having to stack recycling in their garage or something? I don't even know. Is there a way to prioritize that?
That's a good point, and
I
maybe
mean,
to
we
make
know who they
sure.
are,
It's a
and they're
coordination
directly
effort.
on
We
route,
got like
anyway.
we got the
I just
pickup
don't want,
routes.
I don't want everybody to, I don't want that to not be considered.
And maybe one way to mitigate that is you mandate that the very first week, if the Waste Connections contract were to be approved, that you mandate that the very first week needs to be a recycle week, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Because that way, those folks that did have theirs recycled, say, what would that be, the week of the 15th or,
That's, yeah.
Well,
the la-
isn't every week a recycle week?
no,
Mm-mm,
it's
every
every
other.
other.
Right, but
for
for somebody,
Oh,
it's.
for somebody.
For
Yeah.
somebody
Oh, yeah,
somewhere, they
sure.
are getting a recycle truck.
Charlie's saying is
That's
like,
true.
we know the communities.
Yeah.
We know their schedule. Can we prioritize the people that would be left without? I don't even know.
I think
how
the
to
whole
say
theme
it.
is minimize the disruption. You
Right.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
either gonna be the A or the B,
Right.
so.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
you-
I'm
to-
going to hold your
well,
feet to the fire here.
Yes, but I mean,
Um,
you have, and staff has heard that
Yeah.
directive, yes. So you said not to belabor the point. Well, not to belabor the point, I move that we direct city staff to enter into a contract with Waste Connections for our solid waste removal and recycling service, that in connection with that, they review the existing contract and notify us of any applicable termination provisions in that contract that might increase costs, and that we phase out within the next 6 months our collection of solid waste from these legacy apartment complexes as advised by staff.
Motion by Jim,
Second.
second by Jason. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you for that, Jonathan. Appreciate that and everyone's efforts on that. All right, well, that will move us on to agenda item C4, the McLean property naming in honor of Richard Turner. And we have Jason, if you want to come on up here.
don't have a presentation, but I do want to direct you to some documents that, how did I get there?
Well, then that would be a presentation.
Okay, well, I thought the documents in your agenda packet,
Yes.
Section 5 in the naming policy, we have met all of those requirements. There was an official application, I believe by Charlie, and we presented it to the advisory board. It was advertised in the Gazette Legal paper twice in a 60-day period. The board went back and approved it. We had no other applicants during that time. The board went back and approved it, and we bring it to you.
All right, well, this seems like, I had no idea the process to name a park. Well, it was so long, there were so many steps. So hats off to you for, and staff, for getting that done and having all the notices done already, and you buttoned it up for us nicely, so I appreciate that. Is there any discussion on this?
Ask you this, what's the advisory board's, like, thoughts for this project? Are they, the park itself, I mean, are they thinking timelines or suggested timelines that they'd like to kick up to council on what they want to do with this?
They're certainly interested in the project. We haven't talked about timelines, but there have been discussions about possibilities.
Okay, gotcha.
Is there currently any funding provided? Was this one of the ones that a developer was gonna kick in?
They were giving the land.
They just gave the
They
land.
gave the land.
Just the land for this one. That was, I think you're thinking of a different one, where there was already a design. There's no design for this one yet.
Okay.
So we would like to move forward on that at some point soon, but
It's
we're not there
relatively
yet.
Flat piece of land, right? I
Mhm.
mean,
Right.
It's just an odd shape.
It's a big rectangle, isn't it?
It comes to a point where they're doing the commercial down on the end of, close to Drift now.
Well, I think it's great.
Yep.
Lots of people I've talked to
Yeah.
also think it's great. So
Absolutely.
Mark, you want to make a motion?
I will move to approve the naming of the park after Mayor Richard Turner.
All right, motion
Second.
made by Mark, seconded by Alex. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, that's
And
unanimous.
I do just want to add too, I did talk to Marie ahead of this. She unfortunately couldn't make it. She's at the beach celebrating her birthday.
Yeah, happy late birthday.
But she did want to pass on her thanks to the council and of course the board as well for doing this. So.
Yeah, thank you
Thank you.
again, Jason. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Agenda item C5. Let's see, let me get to it. Bear with me for 1 second, guys. All right, agenda item C5, the parking lot leases, Freddie Field, Crescent Park, Ed Gant Park, and Imperial Mill Street. So Miles, are you heading this one up?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. We've had various discussions about these three parking lots that we lease from Belmont Land and Investment over the past couple months. We've gone through the budget process. We received notice from the company, which is Belmont Land, which is Bilko Starfin and Jess Strombold, those two folks that work there, on November 18th, 2025, that they were looking into the leases and the market rates that they currently provide the city with. We did meet, they sent us a letter, Parks and I met with the folks on many occasions. You can see the layout, how many times we've met and gone back and forth with them. They started out the conversation and carried it through stating that, that they really wanted to work with the city, that they didn't want us to have any negative thoughts towards them, that this is a process that they had to go through as a company. And they hired a third-party appraisal firm, which I shared with you all, those three appraisals by email. They're pretty large documents, so I didn't want to put these in the council packet because we cut a tree down just to print them all out. And then they shared those appraisals with Parks and I, and came back with what they thought was their new rates to the city, and it's based on the land value, and it kind of carries from there as far as how they get into the calculations. The first sheet that they gave us is included in your council packet. It's page 159 of 177, where they go through and kind of, it starts at the bottom and it shows what the appraisal lease rates are. Then that carries towards the top column where they had proposed $165,817 for these three lots in next fiscal year. Parks and I took some time and looked through the appraisals and how they came up with that amount, and then met back with them again and said, hey, we noticed inside your appraisals that you chose the highest value of rent percent of cost. That table inside the appraisal was expressed in like a 5%, 6%, and 7% cost. They had proposed the 7% cost to us, and I asked them questions, and then I proposed our own offer to say, hey, why don't we use the lowest percent instead of the highest percentage? And that shows on the next table, which is page 160 of 177 in your council packet. And really how it works is that, you know, they appraised Dwight Frady Field, for example. The land value at Dwight Frady Field was $2,710,000. And you multiply that by 5%, and it gives you $135,500. They also provided a 50% discount when they initially proposed that 7% cost. And so I did the math using the same 50% discount, which gave you amount of $67,750 for Dwight Frady Field. So you can apply that same math to each proposed parking lot that they want to lease to us, Dwight Frady, Imperial Lot, and the Gant parking lot. And we used that dollar figure, given that we went back to the company and they agreed to those amounts. And so that's the amount that we plugged into the budget. And that's kind of what led to the point of really the last paragraph inside the council packet, where they initially wanted to have 3 new leases to the city. There's a sinkhole that's occurring on the Imperial Mill parking lot. It's a pretty significant sinkhole. It has a creek that runs kind of parallel to McLeod Street. There's a pipe that contains the creek. There's a failure evidently in the pipe, which is causing a sinkhole. And so they decided that they just want to continue to move on a month-to-month lease for that particular site until they can do some more due diligence and determine what's going on and see how much money it would cost and the liability if they leave that pipe like it is. And so they just needed more time to continue on with that one. So they do want to propose the Dwight Frady Field for a 3-year lease with an automatic 1-year renewal, which is attachment, one of the attachments inside the council packet. And then they also want to do Gant parking lot with a 1-year lease with an automatic 1-year renewal. Like I say, all those amounts are like factored in to the budget process. And then this weekend, Councilman Heffron looked at the actual lease agreements and made various suggestions to them for corrections or edits. I sent that to them this morning. They agreed to all the edits, and they sent the red line drawings and the clean versions of the document here, and I've got a copy for each one of you if y'all like to look at those. One of the points that Jess made was that I'm gonna have to look it up on my phone, so I apologize to up on here, but the one particular item that Jim had mentioned was item 16D. They do state that, yes, that interpretation is correct. And then item 17, they said, yes, the interpretation is correct. Either party can terminate. So item 16D, I think, was probably the one that gave Councilman Heffron the most heartburn, given that it stated that if we had an issue with one lease, then it kind of carries forward to the other 2 leases that we have.
I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
No.
So we posed that question to Jess and Bill, and you can see from the answer on the email that I got that they would like to keep it as is there. So that's kind of how the process has worked. The spreadsheets were provided, appraisals were provided. the new leases I have here, if y'all would like to look at them. Y'all might have more questions for me, so I'll turn it over, and Parks can help me. He's been along the way the entire time through the process, so if y'all have any questions.
I have some questions and observations. On the table where they derive the percent rent as a percent of the value of the land, so I'm not an appraiser, obviously, but it's not obvious to me that, for example, a Take 5 oil change in Burlington, North Carolina, or a Wawa in Tifton, Georgia, has any meaningful relationship
Comparable
with
sale.
land values in Belmont. I also thought it was curious, and this is, I asked Miles earlier about our existing relationships with the Norfolk Southern property, and I'm not actually sure who Alliance Real Estate is, but the other parking lot that we rent from Alliance Real Estate 3, Inc. Neither of those properties were considered in the appraisal, and they are also both significantly lower than what is proposed. I calculated at an annualized rate, the cost per square foot on the Norfolk Southern property is 14 cents, and on the Alliance Real Estate property, it is 29 cents. The proposed amounts on Mill Street is 46 cents, Frady Field is 44 cents, and the property out by Gant Park is 70 cents. Now, I understand that the Norfolk Southern and Alliance Real Estate leases were signed in 2017, so those 14 and 29 cent values are probably a little low for the current market. I don't know that they've tripled since then, but just as far as nitpicking at the rates, they do seem a little generous, and I don't know that I necessarily have a whole lot of confidence in the appraisal that they provided us. The other thing is, as far as the terms go, the issue with the way that all the leases appear to be written is that after the initial term expires, we're basically on a 90-day shot clock again, so that either party can terminate the agreement with 90 days notice, which to me makes the additional terms basically meaningless, and we're basically back to where we are now. So I don't know that the 3, 2, and 1 year terms that are proposed really, I mean, we're just going to be right back here again in 1, 2, and 3 years. And then for Frady Field in particular, I think it's worth having a conversation about what our long-term vision for that property is. I think that the prior arrangement where we were basically making a nominal payment for the property made sense. It was nice of them to do that. I certainly appreciate their public spiritedness in doing so. But if we're going to be in a situation where we're expected to pay market rates for that piece of property, I don't know that it makes sense to rent a park in perpetuity. So I would personally maybe prefer us start thinking about how we obtain control of that property permanently. I don't know that.
As I recall, there was a proposal within the past year by which we could have gotten that park for nothing.
That
For
is
nothing is not accurate.
I wasn't on council at the time, but I'm not necessarily looking to relitigate that either.
Yeah.
I'm just mentioning.
But no, the point is well taken. But I think that, because I actually ran some numbers here, so if you look at, even if you take their $2.7 million value of the property, which, again, my opinion, for what it's worth, seems a little high. At the rate that they're proposing, and you assume the 3% escalation that they've built into the lease, assuming nothing changes on that, and they just increase the rent 3% every year, and don't kick us out, we would pay $2.7 million over about 25, 26 years. So that, I mean, we've got funds available to potentially, I mean, that's not a big lift for us, I think, financially.
What have we already spent on that park?
I think the existing lease is $6,800 a year.
No,
right?
no, I mean, as far as improvements to
Oh,
the
yeah,
actual.
yeah, well, that was.
Because there was the basketball court.
Did we do the lights?
Yes, I think so.
Not with the new light contract.
No,
They were
that
already
wasn't
there.
a part of the new one, was it?
No, it was not.
Yeah.
Okay, but
It's
we've
just
thought about doing it, and part of the reason we haven't is because of the uncertainty about.
Because we don't own it, right?
Right, yeah, which I think is, kind of goes back to my other point, is if it's a park that we want to remain a park forever, it's hard to make investments in something, meaningful investments in that property if we don't own it.
Mark, to your point, I mean, under the renegotiated contract, we're not paying market rate. We're paying essentially about 50%.
Well, if you assume that they're, I don't know.
And by your math, if it's
Right.
25 years, I mean, if that's our break even, you know, I mean, I don't know, to me, that's still a pretty steep discount. It's gonna, takes us 25 years before we pay in the full value of the land you're saying, the appraised value.
Right.
What did you say the prices per square foot was? Because I'm looking, this is the current, as it sits, is the gray box, like what you've negotiated?
What page is that?
160. Well, I'm seeing a base rent per square foot at 36 cents for Dwight Frady, 38 cents for Imperial, and 40 cents for Gantt.
That's right.
That's what you've negotiated.
That's what's currently on the table, right?
That's the rate we negotiated.
Right, that's not what they came, no, they came to the plate with
About
over
twice that
twice that much,
Yeah, they came,
right?
they came with a 50%, 50 cent, 53 cent, and 56 cent.
Yeah. Yeah, this, here's the thing. Private property is a thing, and that's the struggle is maintaining private property rights, of course, that everybody loves. We want to own our things, and then to also be able to use things for community use. And that's there's a delicate balance there. And 50%, we could talk about the appraisals all day, whether they're high or low or wherever they are. I argue appraisals all day long for businesses, not for real estate, for businesses. And everybody's idea of what something's worth is different. So I think it's fair to be questionable about the appraisal rate or appraisal amounts and how those really, I think more than anything, it's going to be used to get us into the ballpark of a rental rate that they're comfortable with, and then ultimately I like to say we, but that Parks and Miles was able to get a pretty steep reduction on. And what's the onus behind that? I don't know. Is it the fact that they were appraised high, or is it the fact they're trying to do something, trying to give us a discount because they're team players? What's the end result there? I don't know what the real push behind this was, but what comes to my mind is it's parking that's currently used, right? I mean, we're used to using it. That's the problem, is we've got it now, and the takeaway hurts, and that's hard. And trying to ease into that, I think, is the hardest part. And doing that in a way that is fiscally responsible is very important. But to some degree, having parking at our parks is also a responsible thing to have as a city, too. I'm not saying that I have the answer here. What I'm telling you is,
What are you telling us?
Yeah, what are you telling?
I'm just telling you that, at the end of the day, there's a 50%, I understand that there was a value, that it went up, and we had that sticker shock, right? That we were all kind of living comfortably with the current existing agreement. But as Jim well knows, agreements have a termination point, and they die, and you have to renegotiate them. And that's the world we're living in. Mark, to your point, the one thing that I have heartburn about is having to redo this consistently. That's
to that point, and I will say that I don't understand necessarily why these agreements were written the way they were, because it's like there's two termination provisions. There's Section 2 and there's Section 17. And one says how you terminate it, you terminate it, within 30 days prior to the expiration of the term, or within 30 days prior to expiration of each renewal term. And then Section 17 says, well, following the initial term, lessee and lessor shall each have the option to terminate this lease upon 90 days advance written notice. So the question I asked, which according to Miles they confirmed, is at the end of the initial term, either party can terminate 30 days before or 90 days after. But the way I read section 17 of both leases is that 90-day provision only applies to the 90 days after the initial term. And if it renews, then it renews for a year, and the only termination provision then would be up to 30 days prior to the end of the renewal term. So I don't necessarily, I think this has been made more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
But the way I read it is that it's not 90 days, it's 90 days after the initial term, but after that, it's not a continuing 90 days. It would be good for that year renewal term, subject to any notice of termination up to 30 days prior to that end of that year. But I don't know why you would, I don't know. I had to read that several times to understand how they played consistently with each other, but I don't think it would be, I think we'd have a little bit more.
Once you're in the year, the year's protected,
Once
so to
you're
speak.
in the year, you're protected for that, well, you're protected for the 3 years with the
With the
Frady
3 year,
Field.
right.
And then assuming that you survive this 120-day window, 30 days prior and 90 days after, then you're good for a year. And you're good for each successive year as long as any termination rights are exercised up to 30 days prior to the expiration of that year, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, that somewhat makes sense.
Yeah, I think you're right on that.
But I mean, if it were up to, if I were drafting that, I'd probably say all
Clarify.
that in like one paragraph.
Sure.
I don't understand why you need to like flip back and forth for additional
Well, it sounds like they would be
termination.
open to that, because they did say that, I mean, that your knee-jerk was correct. That is the way that they assumed it to be. So I think we could clarify that if
I
necessary.
don't think they didn't make any suggested changes to the actual document itself to clarify it. So it is how she wrote it, and that's section 16.
So
It
for
didn't
the-
change at all. Besides the leasee, I mean, there's a.
So, okay, so they wanted, so we're gonna execute this evening, I assume.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What's that?
For the equation here, on 156, it talks about the market rent per year, then a 50% discount plus operating expenses. In that equation, who's doing the operating expenses?
We are.
Okay. All right, let's check. All right.
Well, it's largely, I think, property taxes, insurance, and there was
Yes.
something else.
Stormwater
Yeah.
fees.
Yeah, which we're the stormwater and the property taxes, so it's really basically the insurance.
Yeah. Miles, were you saying earlier that item 16D, that they did not agree to change that language regarding the parks? Is that a clause you're comfortable with, that cross default?
I don't love it, but
I don't either.
It's a 30-day cure though on it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Even
yeah.
so, I mean, why do they
Yeah,
not
it's like,
view it independently?
it is, trust me, I saw it and I was like, ugh. But at the end of that, I feel like I would love to take it out if they would be open to taking it out, but it doesn't sound like they are. But that would give us a 30-day window to be able to secure, or to cure anything that they notify us that we're in breach
Yeah.
of. So, I mean, we'd have to sit around for 30 days and do nothing for that ultimately to.
Is it basically just not paying on time, though?
Well, it could be any
no,
breach.
well, you gotta look at
The four,
there's a
Three different-
number of different things that are considered default. Obviously, not paying is one, but,
yeah. Fell into paying any of the operating expenses, insurance, taxes. But just the fact that it's included and they're tying it to the other leases, that makes me a little,
yeah.
not that we obviously have
Well,
any
do we
intention of defaulting, but still.
Have any other lease agreements?
Seems unusual.
With them? Other
Yes,
than these?
well, other than these.
No, these are the only 3 that we have with Belmont Land. We have other leases, but not with Belmont Land.
Right.
Well, can we not, as council, just if that's uncomfortable, let them know it's uncomfortable for us and not agree to the terms and ask them to renegotiate it, right?
Yeah, we could say no.
I mean, this is a negotiation, not a final.
Yeah, because I think the terms on these are way too short. I mean, the whole appraisal's built around long-term leases, and I don't know how you can call a 1-year term long-term. That
I agree with that.
We talked about the lengths of their because each one of them, one was a 1, one was a 2, and one was a 3. And so it's based on their, and I can't speak for them, but what project they want to bring forward next. And so they don't want a long-term lease on a project that they plan to move forward with. And that's what I understand. Is that correct, Bart?
I'm assuming that they do not have a representative here tonight.
Is there anyone here from Belmont Land?
I have not seen anybody.
Yes.
Because looking at the Norfolk Southern agreement, that's a 5-year term, or at least the initial term was 5 years. I mean, I think for the park, you've got to look at, 10 years at least.
I don't,
I don't know if they're
I
going to
don't
go
think
for
they're
it, but
I
like,
don't think they will.
I don't know.
They won't do that. We tried that early on.
Okay.
We tried to extend them out longer. No, their projects are like, they want to bring something back to the city.
Yeah.
Not,
Well, they
not
don't currently-
related to these, related to Crescent.
Yeah. No, I understand that, but they don't currently have anything proposed, right? There's nothing kicking around on those.
I don't know if they have anything in planning, but yeah, they're.
Because it's just,
Nothing's been submitted.
no.
yeah, because it just feels like we're kind of paying the penalty for them not
Yeah.
kind of
we're
knowing what
all-
they're going to do
They
with that.
indicated to us they had plans to resubmit. Them not- But they're not.
I mean, is there not a way
Well,
we
it's
could
been a year.
address that?
Has it been a year?
Yeah, it's just about.
I mean, for that one particular property, we said,
Yeah.
hey, we want to keep that as a park. Now, regardless of what may be submitted in the future,
Yeah.
maybe that's your justification for keeping a longer term on that lease versus maybe some of the others. But
Yeah, because they got to know that it's going to be really hard for them to get anything approved if they do anything to that particular property.
So what do y'all propose? You want me to go back to them to say we wanted a 3-year, 4-year, 5-year for Crescent Park?
I mean, you got, you've already,
We hammered them, yeah.
Well,
asked
let's
them if
maybe,
was
I mean,
anything
obviously,
further.
it sounds like negotiations are gonna have to recommence. So maybe we should leave it a little bit more open-ended in terms of what we ask Miles and Parks to go back with. That, so I'd frame it more in terms of we'd like a longer commitment for Frady Field. If 10 years is a non-starter, I mean, all right, but we would like a longer term. That sounds like what, so we would like that. We don't like the sort of cross default clause in 16D. The termination provisions could be clearer.
Help me on the cross default thing, PZ, and I'm not contract savvy 100% for this type of stuff. Basically, if there was an issue at one of our agreements, they serve the right to default on the entire portfolio.
Yeah, so like
type
if
thing.
we, for whatever reason, we did something that would be considered a default on the Gant Field parking lot.
Whether it's something just so small as, or whatever.
Well, it would
what
have
they
to
call
be, non-curable,
Yeah,
but
I'm sure it's
regardless,
not
the point is that, and it's not just pay, because you think, well, if you paid the one, why wouldn't you be able to pay the other? Default is not just failure to pay. Default
Right.
can be, so, we could be perfectly in compliance with Frady Field if something constitutes a default at Gant. Not only is it a default of the Gant lease, that's a default of the Frady Field lease, that's a default of the Mill Street lease, even though we've done nothing that would constitute a default of either of those two leases. The default was with the third lease, but it's considered a default of the other leases as well. Which, I mean, I don't like it. The more I thought about it, that's probably, I think I've seen it before, but.
Saying let each one stand on its own.
Yeah,
Yeah,
each
why
one.
not?
Yeah,
I mean, we're
would
sophisticated
make that as a
parties.
Yeah, right.
suggestion is that
Yeah.
we ask them, each one needs to be individual, particularly if they want 3 different periods for
Yeah.
each of the different properties.
And are y'all
And that could
okay
potentially
with the
apply to
1-year
future lease
term for
agreements between
Gant?
the same parties.
Yeah,
too.
very good, yeah. Like
Yeah,
Jason made a good point, assuming we enter into additional lease agreements, then that would also be
Yeah.
theoretically subsumed in that too.
Does that make sense? Miles? Ask them to remove
Yep.
that.
So those are a few things, but I mean, if there's other other thoughts, I would suggest, not dictating specific terms, but
Yeah.
saying, we don't like this, we don't like that, and then Miles and Parks can go recommence negotiations. I feel like with the actual rates, I sort of lean to where Jason is. You can talk about appraisals and everything, but I do think we're getting a pretty steep discount as it is. So like, I'm not as upset perhaps about, notwithstanding the fact that obviously there's significant increases. I understand, and I think no matter how you calculate it, we're still getting a pretty steep discount. But I do agree with Mark, I think, about the length of the term, and 16D also gives me enough pause that I will join others if they're not comfortable in agreeing to these at the moment.
So I'm hearing cross default, termination, and length of term.
Correct.
But if
We're-
there's anything
And
from
we're
the
talking
perspective,
about, we're talking about length of term for all of them, right? Or
yeah,
I mean, as much as
Yeah.
they
But keeping it
yeah.
open-ended to see, let Miles and Parks
Yeah.
negotiate that, right?
because they have to do what they're our agents, basically.
Yeah.
So it's one thing for us to give open-ended instructions, but if we say 10 years and they come back and,
I agree.
Belmont Land says no, well, then they'd have to come back to us to get further authority. That's why I think we leave more wiggle room. But I mean, if there is anything with respect to the appraisals and any of those numbers, well, I think I'm more with Jason. If others are less comfortable with that, feel free to add that to the list of negotiating points.
Sorry, which one?
The
price.
appraisal,
Yeah, the price.
amounts.
Actual rates.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
think
I agree, there's some, I will stipulate that, the value of properties in Georgia
I was
and
going to say,
elsewhere.
and perhaps that discount, takes some of that into consideration.
Yeah, I would join with you too. I think the discount is pretty heavy. I mean, even if it is overvalued, with a 50% discount, surely we're in the ballpark.
Yeah, but isn't that just putting lipstick on a pig type
Yeah.
situation where it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm giving you a 50% discount, but it really doesn't mean anything if your starting point is BS.
an inflated
Well,
price.
I mean,
yeah.
would it matter if it was a 25 or 30% discount? Is that,
I
mean, if we
depends
say
if
that
it's an actually good
incorporating
deal.
some of
I
these
mean,
properties that aren't true comps for our area,
Yeah.
inflates the value by 25, 30%, and they're giving it to us for 25, 30% less than that, is that still a good deal for the city?
No, I don't know what the product, or the property in Georgia is comparable to.
Well, you
to
mentioned
here in
some of the
Belmont.
per square foot rate in your calculations.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't 2X or 3X, but well,
I guess they were.
They
but
were.
they were
yes.
based on
Yeah.
the 2017 negotiation.
Yeah, they're based on
Yeah.
2017
Yeah.
rates. I mean, it looks, based on what they paid for their appraisal is $1,500. I mean, is that worth? I mean, I guess it kind of depends on how comfortable
Yeah.
we are with the numbers, but,
What's
Yeah,
your, I
You
mean, you're
kinda
in
brought
real
this
estate
up
all day,
for,
every
like,
day. What's your opinion on
long-term
the
strategy.
appraisals?
yeah.
What's
Well,
our
I
long-term plan?
And the comps that they use?
Surely it's not to get rid of the park.
I wasn't happy with the comps, but, the principal on the other side of the table said, when he looked at the appraisals, the quote I remember, he said, these are too high. And that's when the 50% came in. Then I think there was another pullback, because it's still too high. But Miles and I talked early on, he didn't think it was worth, if you tell me if you think I'm misquoting you, that you didn't think it was worth spending the city money to get other appraisals, because these are, even though they're comps or somewhere else, these are professionals that, they don't have a wide swing in what they could do with sort of your analysis, I think, at the
Yeah.
beginning, but you say what you think.
No, I think that's right. I mean, I think IRR is one of the biggest appraisal companies like around here, even though they're working for the other party. I think they have a professional commitment to do the right thing when they give us an appraisal, no matter who they work for. It's kind of like an architect, engineer, or something like that. You're a professional. You need to do your job. So I mean, that was my opinion, was that we take their information that they found through the appraisal process. And I think that was mentioned when you called that out, maybe at the other business item. Yeah, that we'd go ahead, since we've already got one, I didn't wanna go down the path of spending another, what's that, $4,500 to do one. Might get the same results.
Can someone remind me when the current leases expire?
It's at the end of the
One expired, we did an extension on the Imperial lots, we're month to month on that.
Frady, I think, is just 90-day notice.
Yeah.
They've given us notice already, so we want to, we were shooting for July 1st, execution on them.
Okay.
And we worked with Belmont Land when they went through this process, because they were gonna be more aggressive to propose the numbers like mid-year last year, and I was like, hey, just don't do that, work through the budget process so we can factor it into the budget. So they've extended it out to July 1st. And that's kinda how we were leading up to this meeting, trying to get at least you all information in time. We have one more meeting in the month of June that hopefully Jess and Bill can look through these items to see if they would make any suggestions. If they don't, I'll bring it back. If they do, hey, that's great, bring those back to you.
All right, let me make a suggestion, because I think, I want to make sure everybody's heard on this, but I also don't want to go too long on it. So I like your suggestion, go back, open it. You're going back anyway. You're going back to the trough. So when you do, I like your suggestion, leave it open-ended. So I guess the question that we really need to decide is, when we send Miles and Parks back, are we going to add renegotiating the rates, or are we not? We're definitely going to add the removal, hopefully removal of the cross default. We're going to hopefully extend the terms. We're going to ask for that.
Cleaning up the termination clause.
Cleaning up the termination clause. So those are like no-brainers. We got those going back for sure. Are we going to add a renegotiation of the rate, or are we not? Because I think that's really where we're at.
You should say simplifying the termination
Yeah.
clause.
And if you instruct us to do that, what's our basis for doing that? That's what I mean. that's what we-
Renegotiating the rates, you mean?
Yeah, that's what we need to know.
I don't know. The comps is the thing that stands out to me, but again, it's,
But I also see Miles' point. I mean, even if they used, I mean, we can argue comps. I think everybody does at some point, argues comps on appraisals. But these are not fly-by-night appraisal companies, I assume.
See, I mean, when Parks puts it that way, I guess my lean would not be to renegotiate the rates, because if I were to be asked why, I would have no
because we want to pay less.
empirical,
Right.
yeah, well, yeah.
Because we're used to it being less, that's why.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, those changes are always painful, for sure.
But I'm not an appraiser either, so
I'm not
it would
either.
just be hard.
Yeah,
Well, I
not for
don't
real
like
estate.
it, but, you know.
Yeah.
So with that, let's come to something here.
I think we just stick with those three
Yeah.
points of.
So I guess so I guess if there were to be a motion, it would be to continue the item to allow the city attorney and city manager to negotiate the points we have identified. When should we continue it to?
I would say June whatever
15th?
date that is, 15th.
To our workshop?
Workshop.
All right,
June workshop.
I move to continue this item to the June workshop in order to allow the city manager and city attorney to recommence negotiations along the points we have identified.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Getting closer on it. Getting closer on it. All right. So that'll bring us, I think, to our last item here.
Oh, yes.
The amended item. Get my glasses. Yes, agenda, let's see, amended item C6, which is moved from the consent agenda, Catawba River Public Water Intake Excavation Capital Project Approval. Jonathan, back up here with us.
So a quick recap, early in 2025, staff found out that the intake T-screen out in the middle of the Catawba River is covered by sand and sediment. We've gone through several inspections, working through that process to see what it would take to get it uncovered. We did meet with Duke Energy on several occasions. The option for us at this time is to dredge the river. We did go out to bid in December. We did not receive any bids at that time. We re-advertised the project earlier this spring. We did receive bids on May 22nd. Two companies submitted bids, Rowboat and HG Reynolds Company. After review of the bid submittal, it was determined that Rowboat was not responsive in their bid submittal. Therefore, we're recommending to move forward with HG Reynolds. We are also hopeful to include this in the overall intake project that is funded through SRF Helene funds. That is a loan with principal forgiveness up to $10 million.
So, just an off-the-top question for you. So I noticed the price difference was staggering. It was pretty wide, right? 700,000 roughly, 1.3 million roughly. Somewhere, those are the two different bids that came in. And I understand that when we look, we're hoping to be able to have this paid for through this Helene fund, which is a interest-free and all that stuff, which is great. Forgiveness, all that stuff. So the reason that there was a determination made that the low bid, and I can't remember who it was that did it, was a non-responsive bid, was because of the added scrutiny in order for it to be able to be determined to be funded by this Helene, or only because they were way off the map and didn't ask for anything we asked for?
A little bit of both, if I'm being honest. There are additional requirements to utilize state and federal money, which is what makes up the SRF Helene funds distributed by the state. And in addition, they did not submit a proper bid bond, which would have been required anyway for the project.
Their minority MWBE requirements.
Right.
They didn't submit any of that paperwork. Did they submit their
They did submit their contractor's
Yeah,
license.
contract license.
We did review that. We looked it up on the state's website. They are licensed, however, the sheet that they turned in with their bid stated that they had an expired license. It is valid, but
Well, that kind of answers that.
yeah.
So,
It seems rather important with this kind of stuff.
But
So
it was good online. The one
It
they
was good
submitted.
online,
Okay.
yes.
The one they
It's
submitted.
really
Papers.
Okay,
expired.
okay,
Sounds like they
gotcha.
don't have their
Yeah,
stuff.
they've got a
Trying to understand that.
driver's license.
quick one though. This is a temporary fix to a long-term problem though, right?
Yes.
I mean, where we're gonna need a solution for this, right? Dredging is just gonna move the sediment away from our current intake.
Correct.
But really what we need to do is take our existing intake and move it further out towards the middle of the channel, is that correct? What is the estimated full valuation of that project? Do we know?
We are still working through that. In our application for the Helene funding, I believe it also noted an entire new intake structure in a new location on the river. That was valued at $16 million. I don't know that we will have to go to that extent.
Because this is where I'm going at. I genuinely believe we're gonna probably need every bit of that $10 million to probably make this happen, to get it to where we set the city up for success in the
Correct.
future. Not just trying to put a Band-Aid on an existing problem, which we have to do. I'm not saying
Right.
we're not gonna do that. In my mind, I feel like we need to reach out to Duke Energy because understanding that this was an event caused by Hurricane Helene, in isolation, or excuse me, outside of that, it would have been an issue regardless. The river is filling with sediment. It is Duke Energy's responsibility to maintain its waterways that they utilize for the production of energy. So in my mind, I don't know if we leverage the state or we reach out to Brad and others, but how have other municipalities handled this? Because in my mind, there should be a shared responsibility
There
with
absolutely
Duke
should.
Energy
Yeah.
on this.
I agree.
I absolutely believe, because they're the ones that are responsible for maintaining this lake, right?
Right.
Well, doesn't Helene kind of give them an out though? Because then, it's gonna be.
It would have happened regardless of Helene. The
Well, no,
sediment
that's
is coming and rising every
Yeah, but probably not
year.
at the same level, but
No, but eventually we would have had to have moved this. We're 90-something% blocked, right? Blockage, potentially?
We don't exactly know.
Okay. But prior to Helene, it wasn't good.
Correct.
So, I mean, in my mind, Duke Energy, we should be negotiating and talking with them to see. And I'm not saying they're going to say no, right? I'm just saying we need to at least ask. Because this $10 million that we have in this loan funding for Hurricane Helene relief, I anticipate we're going to need every bit of that for what we need to do for long-term for the city of Belmont.
I hear what you're saying, and we'll ask Duke Energy, but this project is so important that we need to like move forward tonight. We don't need to delay to have Duke Energy come back and say, hey, they've got to think through the process. We've got a drought that's in place. We got an intake that is clogged with sediment. We worked as hard as we could so we could bid this thing out and revise it and get it back out so that we can move forward as quickly as possible. This is one thing that keeps me up at night is not providing water to the city.
Let me ask you this. So if in the event we went this direction, we can still pursue Duke for reimbursement.
Reimbursement.
Yeah.
I mean, if it would
And
be.
we can also ask them to, for the extension project that you were talking about.
I think,
extending it
I think that's a
further.
fair point, Alex. I
Yeah.
think that definitely, I
They
don't think
definitely
we can
need to
sleep
take
on it, but I think that we for sure go after Duke and say,
Yeah.
we need to have a conversation about this. We're fronting because we're to the point where, we don't know, I haven't been down there with my scuba gear, but we don't know how blocked everything is exactly, but we know that it's critical enough that we need to do something sooner rather than later. But to your point, how much of it is really due to
Yeah.
what's not been upkept? And that, that'll be an argument for, I'm sure, a judge or a mediator or somebody. But my point is, we can still absolutely pursue a reimbursement.
It's critical enough that we have already met with our interconnect partners, Two Rivers, Mount Holly, and that we're also getting a quote to put a floating pump in the channel just in case, because we never have taken our plant offline. And so the first stop would be to put that floating pump out there to get, draw water in. Thank goodness we've had, good rain here over the past couple of weeks.
Are we still under drought restrictions?
We're still under drought restrictions. We've got notification from Duke Energy that the stage 2 drought remains in place for the time being. We hadn't had enough water to come out of that yet, but I say all that to say this is like, yes, we're gonna reach out to Duke and get Duke ask them all we can, but I definitely wanna try to move forward with a decision tonight so we can move forward with the contract.
We can absolutely do that, but I think the conversation needs to be had, because I know me and you kind of chatted on the phone a couple days ago about this. And I think we need to contact Duke Energy on this,
Well,
right?
sounds like we will, but I hear the urgency from both Miles and Jonathan, and we're looking for direction tonight to approve this.
Yes.
Anybody else have any?
No question. Do you want to make a motion?
Are you good?
I'm good, but again, I just want to make it clear, because
Yeah.
I did bring this up.
I think we got that.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Tim?
Yep.
So I'll make a motion that the capital project ordinance be approved for the Catawba River Public Water Intake Excavation Project.
Motion made by Jason,
Second.
second by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and approved. And we will definitely follow up with Duke on
Let's
that.
do it. I
Yeah,
mean, they also, I know
absolutely.
they can't manufacture water, but they also control the water levels,
Sure.
right? I know we're talking to them, right? But
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. All right.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan. Appreciate that.
We should be able to pay the whole thing.
All right, so that will move us along to agenda item D, other business. So I'll start with Alex. Do you have any other business? We do have a closed session this evening, so we'll be after.
short.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Just get the highlights.
Nothing from me. I'm good.
The only question I had was the water restriction question, which just got an answer to, so nothing from me.
No other business?
Yep.
All right.
I just have one quick item. When you submit I forget the name of the platform, like when you go in to submit a ticket online, like for your yard waste, that system, I've gotten some feedback from residents that it feels kind of like a black hole because you submit the ticket and there's no like email or confirmation or anything that goes out. If they go in to check their status, it doesn't look like it gets updated. I'm not saying it actually goes into a black hole because clearly when you submit something through that portal, stuff happens. But from the sort of citizen perspective.
User experience.
Yes, it's not great.
And that may happen, I guess, I suppose, on an exception basis for certain folks, but I can say I use it probably once a month. And every time, and I do it online, I don't do it by phone. I don't know if that's different, but when you do it online, you get clearly a confirmation that says request submitted successfully.
Yeah, I guess I've never really
For
gone
yard
back.
waste is what I'm referring to.
Yeah. I've done it for yard waste, and
Are you talking
Like-
about a follow-up email that says
yeah, well,
it's
it's just like
completed?
because I've had some people talk to me like like a tree falls down or there's a pothole or a light's out somewhere. They put it in and then they don't feel like there's any
Oh, I see what you're saying.
like affirmative.
Like close the loop, we've done the
Yeah,
work.
yeah. I think that would be helpful. I don't think we're necessarily doing anything wrong. I think it's just a matter of almost taking credit for what we're doing, if that makes sense. So, and I don't know how much of that's a system limitation versus,
But
you
just
know.
saying it's
Do they get
completed.
do they get anything like tickets been closed
I
or
don't
anything
think,
like that?
I've never gotten one for yard waste.
Okay.
I think you
No,
just
of
see that
course,
by the
I've
end
had
of the
my
day,
yard
your
waste
waste
picked
is-
up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
Your waste has been picked up.
Yeah, like the process is
Look out
working.
the.
Email confirmation.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
We
it's-
show up.
Well, I think it's less necessary for stuff like that, whereas like if you report a pothole
Right.
and
Yeah.
like that goes into a queue and like we don't always get to it right away because there's stuff that needs to happen on our end.
Sure.
But like citizens don't necessarily know that, so they just pull it up and see that nothing has happened on the ticket and then they think that we're ignoring them. So
On that point, is there a pothole request on the city website? I know we have the DOT link that we can use for state-owned roads, but is there one on our website too?
I
potholes?
think so, because somebody told me they sent one in. I
Okay.
believe it's in
I
the
should know that.
same.
I know there's one with DOT.
Or
'Cause
maybe
most of the
I don't know. He
roads-
didn't actually exactly tell me like what he and I didn't have time to check.
Yeah.
But I know there's like a long list of things in there. It's everything from like gravestone stuff
Right.
to yard waste.
Right, it was like a drop-down
So-
menu, yeah.
Miles, if you'll just give that a dry run, see if you see anything that maybe can be easily added
Yes,
to
that would
confirm,
be
especially with the potholes.
much appreciated.
Yes, sir.
Jason?
I just had a few quick items. Miles, I don't know if we can look in to see whether the city is part of our landscape contract. If we could give maybe any additional attention to the monument area at Greenwood Cemetery. We were up there doing the flag installations for Memorial Day. And, the monument has basically mulch, around it, but there's some weeds growing up in there. And it'd be a quick, simple fix, but just to get some weed control, maybe mulch it. I think there's actually 4 grave sites in that area around the monument. So be sensitive to that, but I'm just wondering if, like I said, it'd be a pretty nominal thing to get taken care of. But maybe we just give that some attention to dress that up, please. Also did want to thank all those that did come out and place flags on all of our veteran grave sites. That was a tremendous help. What do we see? 670 veterans that are known and marked sites in that just in that cemetery, and many more that are unmarked. So thank you for that. And then lastly, I hear that congratulations are in order for Jared and Ben and the rest of team No Permit, No Problem for winning the championship in the city basketball tournament. So kudos to those guys and girls.
What was their team name?
No permit, no problem.
That is not advice, by the
I
way.
probably shouldn't advertise that.
Yeah, that's not advice.
Not legal advice.
That's great. Thank you, Jason. Thank you. Jim?
I want to congratulate our mayor, Joe, for his efforts. Those of us that went to the ball game Saturday night for Belmont Town Takeover at the Charlotte Knights. Joe was one of 3 illustrious individuals chosen to throw out a ceremonial first pitch, and your first pitch was better than Mr. Dilling from Dilling Heating and Cooling, as well as Tinkerbell. So you managed to throw better than both of them.
I'll be hiring, Jim, I'm going to hire you to negotiate all of my sports contracts that I'm about to
very
get.
good. And having stayed at the game until the bottom of the 8th inning, you were certainly also more impressive than at least 1 or 2 of the Knights relief pitchers. You threw more strikes in 1 pitch than the one guy threw in like 20 pitches.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, Jim.
In baseball.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
In any event, the only thing substantive I have was, I was just wondering if we had an update as to how the implementation is going for the Safe Streets for All grant that we were so excited about several months ago.
Good question.
Yep, and I have an update here. Staff's met with the FHWA on April 17th to coordinate with them on completing the first draft of our federal grant agreement. At this time, they're waiting on our FHWA point of contact to provide some clarifying information on how to proceed with certain elements of the agreement before they submit it back to them. It's going to go through several rounds of technical and legal review, and then execute and work can begin. Still anticipating an execution date at the end of this calendar year, so December 2026, 2027. So yeah, they said it would probably take 12 months to execute an agreement. It looks like it's going to be 12 months to execute the agreement. Yeah. So staff is working with FHWA on that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, good?
Mayor,
All
I
right.
might have one thing.
Yes, sure.
That just kind of, because I have a question out for Tori, but just for everyone's kind of understanding, I'm sure you guys saw where Charlotte City Council is trying to pull out of this I-77
Yeah.
toll
Did.
piece.
Yeah.
It's
600
about
million.
$600 million. I mean, I'd be interested to see if that $600 million, if you guys could probably talk to anyone you know, or maybe even you leverage your relationships with the Charlotte Council to see if they'd be willing to try to reappropriate those funds to the Catawba Crossings project. Obviously, it has to go through the reprioritization, and then the money will probably, they'll have to determine. But I just want to call that out. We need to keep that on our radar, because
Yeah.
we brought it up at the MPO as well.
That's going to be on our TAC agenda, too.
I talked to Donnie Loftus about that specifically, and he said he had already made some phone calls on it,
That could
so-
be
good.
the door that opens up to try to expedite this project,
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Just a couple things for me. So to that point, Jason and Miles and myself, we went up to Raleigh. We had a good meeting with our lobbyists and our representatives, spent the day with them up there, got the opportunity to sit down with each one of them, talk about the projects that we have, our pain points, what Belmont is looking at coming at us in the near future. And I felt like we had good meetings. I think everyone was receptive. I think one of the challenges that we specifically have is that a lot of our pain points are the same pain points as a lot of other municipalities in North Carolina. So as we're jumping up saying we need help with these projects, a lot of other ones are too. But I am confident in our relationship and the fact that that Belmont gets a lot of hard things done, that we're going to be able to float to the top and look for those funds as they're coming in. So I feel good about the meetings we had. I think that's a great point. So I'm going to reach out to all of our representatives again, and just like you did, and say, hey, I understand these funds are maybe not going to be used for the project that was already proposed. Are those going to be redistributed in any way?
Could we leverage our lobbyists and bring that up to him as well?
Yep. So we'll get.
And then to your point too, Joe, did you guys feel pretty good with the lobbyist? I would assume that he took you guys around.
Yeah,
made
it was kind of a quick
introductions.
whirl of a day. Nice guy, seems to know everybody. One thing that did make me feel good, I think, Miles, it was you that pointed it out. It's like everywhere we went, there were 3 or 4 people that came up to him and was like, hey, how are you? Hey, what's going on? Not based on our meeting with our representatives, but just based on him knowing everyone around there.
Always.
So
Did you think it was comparable to when we went up with Mike?
With Mike? Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's not got as much experience as Mike, but he seems to know a lot of the, the players and the folks that, he actually brought up some things I think that we hadn't thought about to say, hey, in fact, we got introduced to one of the liaisons at NCDOT, as someone who kind of an additional communication channel, for communicating some of our transportation needs. So, yeah, I think he was very helpful.
Just want to make sure we're getting like the bang for
Yeah.
our
yeah, I
buck
think so
on
far
that.
so good. We'll see, obviously. Proof is in the pudding, right? If we get those funds start coming in, then we'll feel real good about it. But I thought, just as an initial, for myself, an initial meeting on their home court
Yeah.
felt good.
Our
I was
contract
fine.
with him runs through July, right?
Yeah, it's just annual, I think.
Yeah, I think it's annual.
Yeah.
Be renewed.
Oh, yeah, I feel like
My last thing, Mark and I went to City Vision.
Yes.
We had a great meeting, so that was kind of a little multi-day meeting. North Carolina, a lot of municipalities come out. We all share what's going on and look at some of the things that they're facing as challenges that maybe we're not facing but are coming our way. So it was a good opportunity to sit down and network with a lot of people, go to some good classes, and to spend some team building time together. I think we did good. So I enjoyed the meeting. I hope that you did as well,
Yeah, it was-
and I
it
look
was
forward
good.
to future meetings. So that's all I have. So
Mr.
at
Mayor?
this point, that will.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I know I didn't get to attend, and Jim already commented on your pitching prowess, but the town takeover, whenever we had good attendance.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm glad you brought that up. So listen, let me just.
He thinks Joe's got more power than the president.
That was the best question I got all night. Who's more power, you or the president? That's a
Maybe
good thought.
pharmacy,
I loved it. I loved it. I don't know if you put him up to that, but I loved it.
I didn't. That was all
so,
Joe.
so I talked to Will Champion. He's the one that put this together, and they started this last year, and they reached out to all the municipalities around Charlotte. And so this was our first year of doing it. And when we compare Belmont's first year to all the other municipalities around Charlotte's first year, we beat every one of them.
Nice.
That's
Good job.
awesome. Yeah, he was highly impressed because some of them were large. I mean, like Harrisburg and things like that, and bigger municipalities than we are. And we showed up. I think we had 260 tickets sold.
Wow.
We had a number of vendors that were out there. It was a good time. So I was really impressed with Belmont showed up. I was proud of them, proud of us, and I think it was a close I look forward to next year.
Congrats,
So,
that's awesome.
yeah. So
It was
thanks
a
for
really good
reminding
time.
me on that. I meant to share that. All right. So that will close up other business, and I will entertain a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to NC Gen Stat 143-318.11A3 to consult with an attorney employed or retained by a public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, to discuss two items. One, Karen City of Belmont, and other unnamed item.
I'll make that motion.
All right, motion made by Alex. Seconded by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're in closed session, and we will take a short recess to let the gallery clear.